we don't have all the state people here right now, so why don't we start with me, and then we'll go around the table, then we'll get to the phone people. I'm Cheryl Smith, I'm the chair. I'm also, I'm a retired attorney, and I'm a director of Compassionate Oregon, which is a patient advocacy organization.
Oh, I'm Gabrielle Tanaka. I'm case processor for the medical marijuana program.
Todd Bellato, chair of the dispensary program committee, and horticultural researcher and industry consultant in Corvallis, Oregon.
I'm Tristan Ricebar. I'm from Bend. I'm on the City of Bend's Marijuana Technical Advisory Committee. We just got done with our work here this week with that. And I also work for Mothers Against Misuse and Abuse. I'm not being laid off due to lack of work these days. So, thank you.
I'm Jerry Lever. I'm a practicing emergency department physician in Ashland, Oregon. I sit in the cultural committee here, the research, and I'm also the director of an organization, a nonprofit 501c3 called Health Research Institute. Seth Crawford, Oregon State University, Cannabis Policy Researcher, and patient advocate.
Paul Schmidt, I apologize for being a few minutes late.
Oh, is that it? What's your credentials, Paul?
Oh, retired law enforcement after 34 years, regulatory structure from the Drug Enforcement Administration, and here to help in the regulatory structure and move the program forward in a positive direction.
Alikra Rainey, co-owner and operating manager of Collective Awakenings, patient of 10 years, and advocate all the way.
Mark Richards, president of the MS Society of Portland.
I'm Andre Uso. I'm the new section manager for OMMP. I've been here for 2 weeks, so take it easy on me today. Or don't. I'm here to listen. A little bit of my background is I'm an attorney by training, and I also hold a Master of Public Health. My most recent position, I was the executive director of the Florida Board of Medicine, so I do have a little bit of a medical background. That's about it for me. And this is my management staff, so if they don't mind announcing who they are real quick.
I'm Chris Westfall. I'm the new compliance unit manager. Finished a month now, and I have a master's in public health and master's of fine art.
I'm Carol Yan. I'm the analysis unit manager, and I started on the 19th of October. I am from public health, and I worked as a program support manager for the director's office, so I have a lot of finance and operations.
And I understand you'll be handling the reimbursements for the ACM.
I will, and I was going to connect with you after that. Yes, I will.
Megan Lockwood. I'm the manager for the law enforcement unit team. I've been with the program for several years. I was formerly a law enforcement liaison, so many of you probably recognize my face. I know a lot of you.
I'm Donna Harris, and I'm the support services supervisor, and I've been here 5 weeks, and prior to that, I was with the Oregon Health Authority Innovator Agent Program.
Well, I mean, we have a pretty new staff, but I think that we're all we hit the ground running and we're working in earnest to make the program work.
And we have Ben on the phone. Ben?
Hello?
Ben? Do you want to introduce?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Ben McInnes. I'm a co-chair of the ACMM, and I'm a patient advocate. Hello?
Yes.
Good to hear you,
No,
Ben.
we heard you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we were supposed to have an update on the rulemaking. I think Michael and Shannon are running a little bit late. Do you want to just go into some of the administrative reports?
Yeah, we could go ahead and skip into that and then come back to the update on rulemaking. Okay, the first item we have is the program update regarding the backlog campaign. As many of you are aware, it's been, I guess, it's taking a while for patients to receive their cards and have their applications processed. But that backlog should be up to date in about 4 days with everything that was submitted in September.
No, we have 4 days left.
We have 4 days left
Right.
of updating our backlog.
Our estimated timeframes, roughly about a couple of weeks until that's all completed. And then the remaining staff are currently working on applications submitted end of October, or roughly about 35 days.
The end of October? Oh, great, so we're getting all of October covered.
Yeah, all of October is pretty much already done. We've had the staff have been working simultaneously to get the backlog caught up and to do existing incoming applications.
Okay, so that's really good news.
Once that
really
backlog
good.
is gone, that staff will be joining the remaining staff, and then we should really be able to.
Because that's our number one complaint right now out in the floor.
Yeah,
So, thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Megan.
great.
I lost your name. Related to the backlog issue was it was a verification letter that we were sending out to physicians to verify that they actually signed the APS form. We were doing that through U.S. mail. The physician was given about 2 weeks to respond, and they're responding back through U.S. mail. So what we've done is that's not statutorily required or even required in rule, so we are removing that process. We will still go and verify an APS form through telephone or email in a more direct and expedient manner if we have any suspicions with the signature, but most of the physician signatures we've seen before. So that should probably cut off at least a week and a half, 2 weeks in the approval process once we receive an application, so that also will diminish any sort of waiting period for patients to get their cards and help with the backlog issue. It's not saying that we're not going to verify. We still have a process where we can pick up the phone or fax or email a physician if we have any questions or suspicions.
Any questions or concerns on that?
Just a big thank you.
And I think, that we're trying to become a lot less reliant on paper. It is my goal coming in here, and I think staff's goal is to be a little bit more up to date with our processes since 2015.
Is there something, I know a lot of companies I work with now do like the DocuSign. Is that something that maybe you guys would implement? I know it's online, some of the doctors maybe just be something more electronic.
I mean, something.
It's called like document sign, or they send you like Likewise just did it for all our company too, and they send you a secure email, and like Gabby sends a secure email. So I'm just wondering if there's something like that where they just log on, they verify what they see scanned, and then they sign it. Because that's what I did to read Likewise. So that might be a possibility. I don't know. It might be very costly. I don't know.
We could look into
but that could be something that really might help.
Because I know we're still required to have that APS form signed by the physician, but if an electronic signature would be legally equivalent, that's something.
I gotta create a password.
So they verify that way. They'd send in the APS, but then they would verify that they had signed.
So I had to go through and actually like check the boxes, and then at the bottom it says sign, and then I electronically signed with my name, and then I put in a signature, and then it sent me another security email, and I had to put in my code again, verifying that it was me. But it took about 5 minutes.
Tris?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Thank you, I'm very welcome aboard. I deal with getting patients signed up. Our clinic does clinical services on the consulting physician side of things. And I'd say one of the new confusing issues that deals with a piece of paper, which I love eliminating, is this new residency requirement form, which is creating a great deal of confusion out there for the growers. And I just was wondering, couldn't we incorporate that into the application somewhere and eliminate another piece of paper? There's already that whole grower section down there, and it seems like that could be incorporated into that form. Suggestion, since we're on that.
Okay. I mean, eventually I think that there will be an electronic sign up through a web-based portal for growers, and it will be linking patients to.
I think a lot of people are including that form, and then they're getting their application delayed because it's like, we need the form. And so that's another, I think, fault in the road. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, included in your materials is our new org chart. So it's a little different. It has myself and the unit managers that have all now been filled, broken down by unit. I just want to give you all the caveat that this org chart is in flux, and we are going to probably move some pieces around so we can be most efficient with our processes. But this is the basic structure of our org chart. We have filled several positions, especially on the dispensary side. We've got 3 new compliance specialist 3s and 3 new compliance specialist 1s, is that correct? For six total. We are still going to leave some vacancies under these units because we don't want to hire people and then maybe we have a volume decrease in the next year depending on how people move with the retail side, and have to ask people to leave after a year. So we won't be filling all the positions right away. We're probably going to reassess those needs after October 1st of next year once people start making decisions.
So Andre, the website, will that change too so that they're more consolidated? You know, I find myself having to jump back and forth between dispensary program and medical program when I'm trying to find things. Is there a plan to make those, maybe have one main page and then?
There is. I mean, right now we do have the MMD program website, which is opposite the OMMP, and then I noticed yesterday that forms for both units or programs are split up between the websites. So I do envision merging those just from that standpoint. In addition, when people are registering and applying for various programmatic applications, whether it's a registry card user, processor, or dispensary, that all be done on the same web portal. So people will be able to see that together on one page.
Thank you. I see we've got Shannon and Michael here, and maybe we should have them come up and start in on the rules. You want to come up and?
I think it's a question.
Oh, we got name tags for you guys.
Do you?
Yeah.
So we can come back with our update on the OIS database.
So I'm Michael Tynan. I'm the policy officer for the State Public Health Division.
And I'm Shannon O'Fallon with the Oregon Department of Justice advising the Public Health Division.
And we have been engaged in rulemaking as a result of not only Measure 91, but several bills that the legislature passed in 2015 during this most recent session. They, of course, gave some very distinctive roles for the Liquor Control Commission to implement Measure 91, but they also gave some authority to OHA. And so what we've been engaged in have been sort of a permanent and a temporary rulemaking so that we can meet all of the deadlines that the legislature has set in those bills that operationalized Measure 91. And so the earliest thing that we did is we issued a temporary rule that allowed members of the public aged 21 and older to go into a medical dispensary that opted in to sell to members of the public 21 and over, to allow members of the public to purchase limited amounts of marijuana without having an OMMP card. And so we issued temporary rules to allow that to happen on October 1st for the bill the legislature passed. We were also required to go through the development process to develop rules for regulating grow sites, for regulating processors, and to make some changes to dispensary rules. And so those are what we're engaged in rulemaking right now, and I'll talk to you about what that rulemaking process looks like. And then something that's a little distinctive from the sort of grow site processor dispensary part, which are all focused on the medical marijuana side, is OHA was given the authority to issue the rules for all labeling for medical and retail marijuana, for all testing for medical and retail marijuana, and for serving size for both medical and retail marijuana products. And so those have been issued on a temporary basis, and we're going to be engaged in the permanent rulemaking process for that. And the way that our rulemaking has been working on the permanent process is we seated a rules advisory committee, as we're required to, and that rules advisory committee has been meeting basically almost every Monday in November, except for the Monday of the week of Thanksgiving. So we met for three meetings in November. This most recent meeting this week on Monday was a full day. We met from 9 to 3 to go through a lot of rules. And we anticipate that this Rules Advisory Committee will be the one Rules Advisory Committee that we will convene for all of the rules that we have to issue related to the Measure 91 implementation. We took to seat the Rules Advisory Committee, we took public applications for individuals to indicate their interest, but we set aside specific seats so that we made sure that we were getting the right kinds of stakeholders. So there's seats for growers, processors, dispensary owners, card holders. Cheryl is actually sitting on the committee as well as representing the ACMM, and so what happens is that Rules Advisory Committee advises us as we go through each rule. So we will make edits, or we will develop a rule language, we'll share it with the committee, and in that committee we have a sort of a series of feedback, and we talk through issues, challenges, concerns that people identify in the rule, and then we respond to it. It looks like we're in about a 3-meeting cycle where we introduce a rule, we come back with the edits that we heard from that first meeting at the second meeting, and then it looks like in the third meeting we come back and we've sort of addressed and said, okay, based on everything we've heard over the last 2 meetings, here's the rules that we're going to move forward. After none of this hasn't happened yet, what I'm about to talk about. After we go through that process and we get to a finalized place with the Rules Advisory Committee, the next step in the rulemaking process is that a hearing is convened, and that's where members of the public can come and make comments either in person or in writing. And so that's sort of, so where we're engaged in now is that sort of second, third meeting on many of our rules. I think Cheryl is your conduit to directly influence, I think, any or to provide comment on any of the rules that we have. You can also participate through the public comment period that will be held in each Rules Advisory Committee at the end. But the more direct way, I think, for this body to be engaged is either through Cheryl or during the actual the hearing process. Those are the sort of the 2 ways that you would have sort of the most correct.
And these rules that you got today, it does seem late in the game, but these are in process. I mean, even changing as of our meeting on Monday, so.
Yeah, we discussed, I think the lion's share of what you were given today was first discussed on Monday.
Yeah. So it's not like you're being left to the last minute. Everybody kind of is as we go through this nightmare process of trying to get all these rules done. But I do encourage everybody, and I want to talk a little more about fee structure in the afternoon, and maybe some of the other rules that are relevant to this body, and so maybe we can come up with some recommendations at that point. And if you can take the time, it does take a lot of time to go through them, but find the parts that are most relevant, and let me know what your comments are. Questions?
Shannon, would you please explain the legislative or constitutional authority for the residency requirement for the OMMP patients?
No. I mean, the residency requirement was put in place by the legislature, so I think that's a question to ask.
Where is that? I couldn't find it anywhere.
Where is the residency requirement?
Right.
In the House Bill 3400?
Yeah, because 3400 requires proof of residency for the application, but it doesn't require that that residency be Oregon. It's only proof of residency. It doesn't have any requirement that I've found that requires them to be residents of Oregon. So if they're in Idaho, if they submit their proof of residency in Idaho, then that should satisfy the statute. So I'm curious as to why you're making it in the rule that they have to be Oregon residents when there's no legislative or constitutional authority to do so.
Well, I don't know that there needs to be constitutional authority. I think it's implied if there's a reference to residency that they're talking about Oregon residency, because I don't know why the Oregon legislature would care about residency anywhere else. I mean, everyone's going to be a resident of some place, so I think that that's implied.
Okay, well, that's implying that affects, you know, over 1,000 patients. I think that the new numbers are about 1,300 or 1,400 out-of-state patients will be denied access to medical marijuana while they're in Oregon, and that's, I feel, is a very significant impact of an interpretation.
So you think the intent of the legislature was what? I mean, why say residency if it's not Oregon residency?
There are a lot of statutes that have requirements that are unreasonable and without logic. So I can't really say that, but
I mean, it's something that I mean, I mean, again, I assume that when they're talking about residency, they're talking about Oregon residency. I'll take another look at it. I mean, the other option, you know, I think would be for the ACMM if it, you know, if it wanted to, you know, pose some question to the legislature, but I feel fairly confident that they were talking about Oregon residency.
And you can also look at the 2010 Supreme Court case. I forget the name of the case, but Lee Berger was the attorney on it, and in the Supreme Court ruled that Oregon didn't have the authority to limit residency.
Right, so that case was based on the statute as it was written at the time, which I think is part of the reason why you see that statutory change here. I think that was the legislature saying, okay, we're imposing an Oregon residency requirement. And it's not any term of residency for patients, it's just Oregon residency. I mean, if you want to be on the Oregon Health Plan, you have to be an Oregon resident, not for any particular period of time, part of the, you know, Oregon Food Stamps program. So I think a residency requirement in and of itself should not be a constitutional issue.
Sure. Do all those other programs say proof of residency, or do they say in statute that they have to be Oregon residents?
I don't know.
I would just strongly recommend that we, you know, interpret, you know, in favor of patients when there is no other reason to deny them access to medicine, is my thought. And I would encourage maybe a motion later on. It's appropriate to make a motion now, but
I think we should do it this afternoon when we're talking about it, so make sure you make a note of that. I will too. Other questions, concerns?
Some I'll bring up this afternoon.
Yeah, you can, unless you have questions specifically for Michael or Shannon.
Not specific.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, as I mentioned, as we go along, we'll make sure to keep up. So it'll be weekly. I think is what to keep in mind. That you'll see sort of weekly changes to the rules. We'll distribute them to the ACMM as well as just sort of, you know, if you have comments, try to work through Cheryl. Then you can also send any sort of other questions or issues you have to me as well.
You know, there's something I just thought of that I'm going to, I'll be submitting in writing too, but it looks like the Senate Bill 844, I think it was, got left out because it has a new requirement that a hospice or a residential facility can be designated as an additional caregiver. So that somehow needs to be factored into the definitions and anything about caregivers that talk about individuals. I just started looking at it this morning.
Yeah.
Another complication.
I mean, the rules say that a patient can designate a caregiver, and it, describes who a caregiver is. I don't think it changed the definition of, but you're right, I should take a look.
Yeah, it actually did change it.
Did it change the
An
definition of
additional
caregiver?
caregiver. I know because I'm the one that got that law.
You guys' deadline for this is the end of the year, right? This is on January, do you guys have a?
Well,
So it's March. It's March, but the rules have to be filed with the draft rules have to be filed with the Secretary of State by December 15th in order to make it into the bulletin. Yeah, and then, the provisions will take effect in March, or depending on sort of what the provision is, there can be some sort of delay effective date.
Just the rules for grow sites, processors, and the changes to the dispensaries, the labeling, testing, and serving size, those rules have already been issued as temporary.
Yeah.
And right, so like testing takes effect on June 1st, in June.
I just have a lot of growers and patients asking me some stuff, so.
Right.
Because they want to know, are they doing medical drugs, so they're asking too.
Yeah, right.
And you should go to the Compassionate Oregon website because Anthony and I did put together a paper that gives you kind of a timeline of what happens when. Yeah, it's something.
And we've been talking internally about developing a frequently asked questions sort of page so that we can get to these questions here as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
I haven't reviewed all these rules, but maybe you can help me. Is there anything that addresses use of marijuana in hospital settings?
In hospice settings?
In hospital settings, patients who are using cannabis.
So there, under existing law, it says there's the issue with the Indoor Clean Air Act. So when we're talking about consuming marijuana, I think you need to, going forward, starting in January, you need to distinguish between consuming in a way that's sort of non-combustible, right? So you can't smoke, vape, or aerosolize. Cannabis, that's part of the Indoor Clean Air Act, and hospitals would be subject to the Indoor Clean Air Act as a place of employment. So you couldn't do any of those things. And then otherwise, if my memory serves correctly, there's nothing in Oregon law that would prohibit the use in a hospital, but I think, facilities can have their own rules about that, and they are all certified by the Federal Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, and so they very well may have policies and made decisions that prohibit use of cannabis in a healthcare facility because they're afraid of jeopardizing their CMS certification. Does that help?
Anything else?
I had a quick question and a follow-up of that. Would that be okay?
Yes. Go ahead,
This is
Ben.
Ben Maximus.
Okay.
It was, you mentioned that because of their Medicaid and their, federal relationship, they didn't want to jeopardize that. But my understanding was because of the most recent bill that passed the House and Senate, and now that there's no funds and there's no pursuit of that from a DEA level and no enforcement of that, and that had been tested and the federal judges, federal judge when they tested it, brought something to court to that effect, threw it out. I'm sort of wondering what is this federal issue that would be at play after that most recent law came into effect about not prosecuting and not doing anything in the medical states as well as the rec states as long as they were compliant and had a regulatory system. I don't know where the federal issue, I'm trying to understand where the federal issue with the Medicaid compliance comes in, if that exposure is real anymore or if that's a past conversation and it's an illusionary exposure and sort of a way to just say no.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is Shannon. I mean, I don't, you know, I can't speak for hospitals and I can't speak for CMS. But I think that the case that you're talking about deals with criminal enforcement and not other, you know, regulatory aspects of the federal government. You know, I mean, I don't know
I'm just
how
wondering
real.
how it's a medicine acknowledged by the state of Oregon, and in, say, like a state hospital of OHSU, you know, has restrictions around it, as well as I know St. Vincent's, and, you know, personally has pretty large restrictions around it. And so, and as you know, the doctors still don't prescribe based on the worrying about losing their DEA license as well, right? And these seem like true based on the previous world, but now with the changes that have occurred in laws in Oregon, as well as it being a Schedule II now in Oregon, as well as the changes like we talked about on the federal level, I guess the part that I'm wondering is there sort of discrimination laws that will be in violation by those institutions, state or otherwise, that are, you know, basically not providing a basic medical service as identified by the state of Oregon? Is there any liability that you see on the hospital's behalf, or is that fully legal for them to discriminate at that level?
You know, I really am not. You know, I'm not equipped, nor can I give legal advice about that issue.
Well, I wasn't after legal advice. I was just asking for your personal assess, you know, because since you are representing the state of Oregon, I was wondering what your, let's just say, you know, was an example of OHSU, you know, a state hospital. What I'm trying to understand is the thing that I'm finding is I just had a friend pass that was not able in the final days to get cannabis, even when I brought it to him, whether it was even via ingestion. And I'm just, at some point, I'm wondering when the discrimination will fade. And if you guys see that occurring, if you guys see yourselves as the Attorney General's taking that stance and sort of being a defense of the long discrimination against cannabis, and that seeing if that's something you guys are actively looking at laws across the board and actions across the board to see if that's something you would support, and if, let's say, a case were brought to you, what you feel about that, or if you feel that right now it is still okay based on where we're at and acceptable to discriminate across the board, you know, especially with hospitals and with prescribing doctors. I'm just a little, it still just logically baffles me, you know, how that can still occur.
So this is Shannon. I mean, it would not be appropriate for me to speak on behalf of the Attorney General on this issue. It's not something that I've been asked to look at, so I just can't respond.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Any other?
I'm done.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just had one quick comment on page 55 of the draft rules. It's talking about taking industrial hemp into dispensaries, and there's a use of the definition of zero THC that's applied. I just wanted to bring up that that's not what the actual Oregon statute is for industrial hemp.
I know.
So just, okay.
I know. That section's going to get redrafted.
Okay.
We had numerous comments about that at the RAC.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Back to the database. Oregon Information System, is that what that stands for?
Yeah, Oregon Information Systems Project. So we're currently developing a database that would allow any client that would be using OMMP services or registering or getting a license from us to be able to go online through a web portal and apply and register in that manner and that form would be linked to our database requirements through HB 3400. So we can then get an idea of how much and when and how for each programming requirement as far as dispensaries, processors, and then patients and growers. So that's a work in progress.
Will that be mandatory that they do it online, or will you still have the paper process?
We're going to need a paper backup, but we would prefer that people would sign up through a web-based portal. It would just make things easier and more automated that way. And then we could track that information and data according to our statutory requirements by linking it into our internal database. So it would be an outwardly facing portal for registrants and applicants. And then of course the data would be, we've got a user interface internally for our staff so they can process those applications, and then a link into an informational database so we can provide statistics to the legislature and to you guys as is required under statute. That project it's an immense project. It's ongoing. We are reliant on what our final rules are going to be, and have been able to establish our framework for the database. So it's something that we're building at the same time learning how to do. Statutorily, we need the database by March 1st, which I think we can meet those statutory requirements, but of course there's going to be tweaks and fixes to the system as we go along beyond March 1st until late 2016 probably, and even into 2017 depending on what the legislature does in the short session. I think it's a pretty ambitious project, but I think that it will make the program more fluid and modern once we do have that capacity. Probably looking at a good idea of what it looks like sometime in January, February, and have that ready to be implemented March 1st. So that's the basic overview in our progress.
So Andre, will the ACMM have input into any of this, the format, I don't know. Is there any role for this committee before this thing gets up and running?
I don't see why we couldn't let the committee look at maybe a test site or a beta site and see how you guys like the look and feel of it.
Because a couple months ago we did that.
And we've done that on other projects.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
worked out
don't
pretty
see
well.
why that would be an issue.
Okay.
Because I think it would be helpful for you guys to be able to see how the platform is going to work. As I'm reading through HB 3400 and this without the advice of Shannon here, I think we can meet those database requirements anyway, March 1st. They're pretty open, pretty basic requirements. So even if we still have to go back and revert to an old paper-based system, I think would be okay. Or using Excel spreadsheets, which is not my goal, it's not program's goal, it's not OHA's goal. But the goal is to develop a more robust database project that would incorporate outside users.
And so is this the analysis unit that is, how does this work? I guess that takes me back to the new organizational chart.
Right.
And who does what? And
OIS is its own program within OHA and DHS. So they pretty much, they're the IT folks, software folks, and they work with the OMMP project. Now, Carol's unit's intimately involved in developing that, and in addition to Chris's folks and Megan's folks and Donna's folks, we all have to have input into OIS because, they're the technical people, and we're more the programmatic people, so they need to know what we want with the program in order to develop the software and the database. So I think it's, in addition to, my boss and Priscilla are also involved, and the policy people are involved. So it's a total involvement with all of OMMP, with a lot of OHA, getting the database project going.
So does that mean there's interaction between data from other programs, like say the Oregon Health Plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just right now, it's just the card holder, the registry, building the processor side, because that's brand new, trying to incorporate the grower side, because the growers are coupled with the patients right now. And of course, the dispensary side, which is already functioning independently, but will be linked to that overall database project in Web Portal.
And this is confidential information?
Yes.
The public can't get access?
Yeah. Anything that's confidential in statute remains confidential, and anything all the information that we need to produce for the legislature, that's all that we would produce. There's nothing additional, no additional information that we would make available. I mean, the database is going to be statutorily compliant.
Other questions about that?
This next year program falls under whose auspices?
OMMP.
They've now been combined. Yeah.
Kind of a side note, but do you know how that database is going? I mean, is everything going well on getting that up and running?
It's going well. It's in the production stage, and we're reliant on the rules to set the framework for the database and the project in general. But the basics, we have a good conceptual idea of how we want it to work, and then between now and March, it's going to be getting into the nuts and bolts and actually making sure that it works.
And the dispensary one, is that, do you guys know anything of that? Is that running well? Because everything's online for that, so
Right. I mean, the sensory registration and application registration works the way it's always been. I don't know if Chris has any other input.
It's an excellent question. We're going to continue to operate with the existing structure while we're enhancing what's in our means to enhance with the OIS system, while that's being integrated across all of the units.
I didn't know how to quite ask that, so thank you.
It'll eventually be integrated with our inspection program and our compliance program too. So the information that we have in the database will drive our inspection program.
You guys said you hired 3 or 4 new inspectors.
We have 6 new inspectors who we're training now, and we have 3, these are classifications CS3s in our field inspections depth. We'll have 3 CS1s who will be office investigators and processors. And we've tentatively made job offers, but we don't have them hired and on board yet.
Other questions, comments?
Nice direction, I would say.
Yeah, I think we'll have a better idea in January and by February of what the functionality is going to be.
I would expect it to be quite streamlined over it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, we've been hoping for and hearing about an online application system for a number of years.
That's our goal.
Yeah. Statistics.
Okay, in your packet, you'll find some statistics for the past few months. I guess I'll quickly just kind of go over what they are, and then if you have additional questions, I'll answer those for you. So you can see that currently at over 75,000 patients, with almost 36,000 caregivers, and a little over 47,000 growers. and then 40,000 of those registrants are patients that list themselves as growers. About 1,700 physicians that are current with the program, and then our out-of-state participants, you can see there 2,600 patients, 750 caregivers approximately, and about 680 growers.
I have a question about that. So when we go into this change about the residency, like March 1st, do these people just have to go away?
You know, I don't know. It's something I need to look into. Is these out-of-state participants? This is my assumption, is that they established Oregon residency at some point in time when they registered for the program.
No.
No, they didn't.
No, no, they haven't had to be.
I have over 100 applications that are state, which is helpful. So I know next year.
Yeah, it's a substantial change.
Okay.
And we've been, yeah, one of the
You see it on
few
the other
states,
end.
I think, because of that Attorney General opinion is how it came about. There was nothing in the statute that prohibited out-of-state people from participating. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I'm not gonna, I guess I'm gonna stop making assumptions then.
Yeah.
And I'll have to look into that. Going down the page, these are condition counts. They're not mutually exclusive, so a patient can mark as many as are applicable. You see the vast majority of conditions revolve around spasms and severe pain, but that can be coupled with, cancer or HIV/AIDS or some other condition.
And you're now collecting for people with pervasive neurological conditions. That's being allowed, is my understanding. And then the Alzheimer's is going to go away, and it'll get absorbed into that category. At least that's the way I read it, based on the proposed rule changes.
Right, because that would fit in that same category.
Yeah.
And then we did add recently, yes. Sorry, so we have 40,500 that are indicating severe pain as their only condition, which is a little over half of current OMMP patients, and then PTSD only is about 1,200. Moving on to the next piece of data. You can see that our applications received by year for this year have increased significantly over the past year. And we usually start getting a peak around March and then culminating with peak in applications in June or July. So despite the statutory change, we're still seeing a lot of people signing up for the OMMP program. And that would probably require an increase in staff.
We had just a quick question.
Sure.
Didn't see it in the packet. Was there a listing the number of patients at growth sites we had done?
I think it's in the very back.
Patients at growth sites?
Yeah, number of registered patients.
I think you're talking, this one, the law enforcement,
No, that's something that we,
but it's got the address per name, per card.
Oh, does
Oh,
it?
that's in
Yeah.
the snapshot.
No, yeah, it's right behind the snap. It's like the very, very last.
To go to page, the second to last page on the
Yeah.
back.
No, that's the notes that you have. It's the snapshot.
Oh, it's snapshot.
Yeah.
Go to
Oh, there it is.
page 5.
In the very back, it's like the last 2 pages of it.
And there's a
Sorry.
little synopsis off to the right.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
So let's say you have over 5,300 address growth sites with 2 patients, at least 2 patients.
There's even more data here. Thank you. This is fantastic.
So pretty exciting.
Need more numbers.
It's like, yay!
Shaking.
So with that, that's the part of the snapshot for October, month ending October. I'll let you guys peruse that at your own leisure. And if you have specific questions, you can always give me a shout or give me an email.
Yeah, this snapshot is very helpful. I appreciate that.
And what I'll do is I don't have business cards yet, but I'll give everyone my email address so they can email me if they have specific questions about statistics or anything else about the program. And then the last piece of information, those 6 pages, is the LEDS inquiries coming from various law enforcement agencies.
Seem to have gone way down. I didn't pull out an old one, but we're down to 200 something,
I think it's way down.
which was
66%.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That was supposed to be one of the purposes of Measure 91.
Any other questions on the stats?
Quick question.
Yes.
Financial report. What is the current minimum cash balance you're trying to achieve?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you.
That is our next thing to go over, is this
topic.
financial.
I'm sorry, I jumped in.
Yeah.
I
So,
guess we-
yeah, if there are no questions on the data, then we'll just go into the financial status.
So to answer your question, Todd, I don't know. I'll ask and find out what our minimum is. And since I made a wrong assumption before, I'm not going to make the assumptions about the budget.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the less transfers out to other community programs, 8.8 billion, those expenditures are determined by legislature, is that correct?
That's my belief, yeah.
Is that based on a dollar amount or a percentage? And what happens when the projected fee revenue, 22 million, or the cumulative revenue, 26 million, increases? Does that leave more money in that account? Or is it based on a percent of the amount?
I'm writing down your questions because I don't have answers to them, but I'll find out.
I appreciate it.
And I assume then, but I wasn't aware of it, that the legislature then renewed this in the most recent session because it was a new biennium.
They do.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, I might be able to answer some of that. So the legislature determined the dollar amounts that were to support the programs. So you'll see some that were determined to be carried forward from the biennium just ending, going to the new biennium to support programs. So they give us specific figures or recommendations that we have to follow.
In dollar amounts.
Pretty much, yeah.
So if
Yeah, it's like we have the 5 million is new this year.
if the patient numbers then plummet, then OMMP could be bankrupted by these other programs.
We would have to go back to the legislature at that point, and they would need to review that. But, yeah.
Does the legislature meet once a year?
They do, but there are emergency boards that, we have an opportunity to go back. If that were to happen, then we would have to.
What was SBHC?
What is SBHC?
Yeah. 520,000.
School-based health center?
School-based health center? So I noticed that the numbers from the last time, the cash balance is down by about $5,000. But then if you look at the bottom, you got the PH Systems Improvement and Partnerships, $5 million, excuse me. So that's what I'm curious about. What is that?
That's the support for local public health. That was a legislative decision to allocate the $5 million for the state support for public health. Money goes out to the counties.
Out of this program?
And that came from the balance of the 13-15 that they allocated it to the 15-17 budget. The systems improvement, that's just actually the name of the program that it's under. It's not what it's doing.
And Cheryl, what does that do? I mean, what is the purpose of that systems improvement?
What has happened is that in the director's office, 2 programs were combined. It used to be called Community Liaison, and that's where the state support for public health went out to the counties, and it's where they have their per capita funding that goes out. So that's the component of this. It goes out in special payments to all of the counties. It's a per capita basis that it's allocated. It's now been moved under this new program. It's called the Systems Improvements and Partnerships. So they've just kind of consolidated.
And where did the money come from previously?
It was general fund.
And so they lost the general fund and moved, kind of like the lottery, they switched it over?
They moved the funds.
So the counties that even opt out of as much marijuana business as possible still get this money? They still get a benefit from it?
Well, the counties on the state per capita, they receive funding from
the
state
medical
or-
marijuana program after all?
Yeah.
Okay.
The C here, is that Stafford County?
Contraceptive care.
Contraceptive. Include that for the kids.
I guess I have to, comment about this. Just a little history. The fees were doubled back in 2011 because the state was in a severe budget crisis. So we doubled the fees to relieve the general fund a bit and fund some of these programs with OMMP dollars. And the intent, of course, the Ways and Means Committee will never make any promises, but the intent was that that this wasn't going to be expanded and that it would be adjusted when the state budget was was in not so dire need. And the state budget is in significantly better condition than it is now. But what I'm seeing with this $5 million grab here is that instead of looking at ways to reduce the fees for the Oregon's most seriously ill patients in the whole state are on this program, instead of saying, okay, well, I guess we don't need your, the money off of these seriously ill patients anymore. Instead of reducing fees, they're finding new ways to spend the patients' money, and that is a very disturbing trend. Which also takes us back to some commitments from your predecessors. At our spring meeting 9 months ago, we were told we were promised financial to look into reporting in ways to look ahead at potential fee reductions or adjustments. And that was 9 months ago, and we haven't had any such action taken on that. I believe the last meeting, again, it was reiterated that you would come to this meeting with kind of a financial report and someone to work with us to figure out ways, answering the question of what's the minimum cash balance that the program requires and how we can adjust the fees to meet the revenue and expense requirements of the program while minimizing the cost to Oregon's most seriously ill patients.
Tom, we also talked about the longevity of the card for different ailments too.
Other ways,
So
yeah.
people aren't having to redo it every year. It's $465. I just had to redo my card. My regular doctor won't sign off on it. So, I mean, it's almost a $500 cost. It's just, I can barely afford that. I mean, so it's really hard for a lot of my patients to get that. And even a lot of them, even though you guys do the reduced fees, which is amazing for vets and amazing for the staff, not a lot of my patients qualify for that. They may be a single mom with 3 kids, but they make too much to get food stamps, and they're still trying to, make it out with cancer.
Yeah, and according to the data, it's almost 60% of all patients are not eligible for a reduced fee. So those are the people whose backs this money.
It seems appropriate that those programs get transferred over to the adult use side as soon as possible, legislatively, of course, would seem to make sense. Because I think the writing's on the wall. We're going to see patient numbers drop here. I mean, we're seeing it happen locally. And I think that's just an expectation that we need actually be looked at and really get it out of the medical side. It seems much more appropriate expenditures from the LCC side, frankly. So,
For public health, yeah.
absolutely.
At the same meeting, we also looked at and had a unanimous consent amongst this committee that we start to look at funding medical research and horticultural research, and later learn that Oregon Health Authority has no ability to redirect those funds. We're talking about it was like $8.8 million that slips away from a program, a medical program that is not coupled with research. To me, that's a travesty. And so, I'm really in agreement with how are these funds being managed. I know it's a legislative decision, but still, not to have these commitments to lower these sort of costs, make medicine available, or to engage in research. I feel shortcomings in this program.
I certainly understand all those concerns, and I know that your patients are the patient is probably wearing a little thin with, kicking the subject down the road every meeting, but I'm going to educate myself on this to the best of my ability, and I'm going to get some answers by the next meeting.
I just want to thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just want to point out that the ACMM is charged by statute, to do 3 things. One is to advise on the administrative aspects of this program, which is fairly broad. To advise on current and proposed administrative rules, which we barely have the opportunity to do. And 3 is to annually review the fee structure and recommend changes. And we haven't had that opportunity since 2011, when myself and Cheryl and some other of us were appointed to a rules advisory committee to adjust the fees. And we actually came up with a very well thought out, thanks to Carl Orcutt, a very well thought out proposed fee structure that achieved the expense goals and the revenue goals and kept things low. And then we were told, well, it doesn't matter what we recommend because the Ways and Means Committee wants us to do it this way. And so we haven't actually had any actual ability to annually advise on fees since I believe it was 2009 when Christian Broder was handling the budget and finance stuff. And I would really like to, if you can look back that far, bring back someone like Chris Broder. He was a very thoughtful financial analyst. He came to our meetings every time and analyzed the finances very carefully. Had very good projections and was very informative to help this committee advise the OHA on financial and administrative aspects. So thank you for looking into it.
Okay. And, I'm going to ask to have someone from the financial department so they can give a little better guidance, not only to you guys, but so I'm more knowledgeable of the process. We do have a fee discussion later this afternoon.
Right, because the fees are in the administrative rules, and so now is the time for us to give our feedback. But one of my frustrations, and I think of everybody else, is that this money gets transferred in this secret Ways and Means Committee, and we're never asked while this is going on, for our input on that, and then the money's gone. And so, I just wonder how much success we're going to have with trying to decrease fees now that the money's been bled out and there's not this amount, $8 million sitting there. Now we really have to look at how do you decrease fees within this small amount of money that's being bled constantly to other programs.
We will be setting fees and new rules that are going to be effective March 1st, so maybe
this is where we give our input.
Yeah, and it may be a matter of time before we know what effect those fees have on this budget. That's kind of the reality of the budget and revenue coming in, is that right now we don't know because the fees haven't been set.
So the projected fees are based on the current, the projected revenue is based on current fee structure and just a projection of how many patients you're going to have and how many, dispensary licenses?
Well, yeah, we're trying to project, how many of them are going to stay on the medical side. So we're trying to project that as well as.
And does this include the dispensary registration money also?
No, not in this.
Okay, so
No.
why are those not? If the two are being combined, why is it not all together?
The budgets are not together. They never have been.
Right, I know they haven't been,
It's a
but-
different appropriation, and I think that the person that completed this used what she had before. I think in 15, 17, because they were not together. We're
Right.
still looking at the last biennium, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't be able to combine them.
I see, okay.
I think in future, we can at least put them side by side.
Okay.
So you can see that, but they were completely separate before.
Yeah.
That's my biggest scare, is these two not being able to coincide with each other. I'm so scared to see the medical go away. Because you guys were not allowing rec and medical to coincide in the same building, let alone be 1,000 feet from each other. It's getting really scary out there.
Todd?
Oh, and just one other aspect or another commitment to your predecessor was, I think it was our meeting with Director Sexton.
Lynn Saxon?
Lynn Saxon. That we were at the last meeting, we were going to be presented with a timeline and sort of a way to time your sharing of in-information and our advising on the fee structure, so that it actually works out with, in a practical sense. Because for the past 7 years, I've brought this up in almost every meeting, and we're told, well, we have to wait until this recent change, we see how it works out a little while before we can make any decisions, or we're not allowed to make any fee adjustments or administrative rule changes during the legislative session, or there's been several bunch of excuses not to deal with it. And the times where it actually has been conducive with the timing of administrative rule promulgation and stuff, there's been a lapse in financial information being provided or analyzed. And so I just want to, see if I can get your commitment to kind of work this in a way that it is really effective for us advising you on the structure.
Okay, and I think today, this afternoon, we'll have that opportunity with the fee discussion, and then I can bring back that advisement back to the OHA side when we develop these rules, which are due to have to be filed in the next 2 weeks. So I think that time is now for that advisement on fee structure.
That's why we're going to talk about it this afternoon. It's critical because the rules that are right now, the draft that you'll see keeps the old fee structure in place, but then there's also a blank, not knowing how much to charge for a grower and a grow site. So there's like an additional fee being proposed, but not knowing what it is. And we should give some input on whether there should be one, how much it should be, etc.
And I'm going to be committed to being more transparent about the budget and the finance process, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just appreciate all the
Is there-
information you've gotten. Thank you.
Is there a deadline coming up? I heard December 15th. What is that for?
Just to file our draft rules for public comment, public hearing, and they're going to be effective, those rules need to be effective March 1st. So there's an administrative rulemaking process that each agency has to go through, so that time frame is going to start December 15th to get those rules in place by March 1st.
But in terms of budgetary distributions for 2016, that door is closed, it's going to carry or not?
I think we have as far as the biennium budget,
Yes.
it's 2015 through 2017, so probably looking forward after 2017.
So that's this public health systems improvement partnerships, 5 million, and the contraceptive care new funds that's forward from 13-15.
Yes.
Right, so that'd be the next biennium.
That's my understanding as I look at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the HC, or SBHC? It's under
School-based health centers.
School-based.
These are all good programs to fund, really.
They are,
But-
yeah.
And I think, as I get a clearer picture of it, then you guys will get a clearer picture of it too.
Other comments or concerns or anything on the budget questions?
We just wanted to offer, if you need any help on the projections for patients to report, I would love to be able to help out with that. Because I've heard several times, we're not sure what the patient count is going to look like. It sounds like suggestions that it may decline, but other states that have gone through similar procedures have not seen a decline.
Yeah, I've heard that too, that we've seen an increase, and we're seeing an actual increase this year. If you look at the stats, by almost, 2,000, over 1,500 patients.
It
last year
has
at the same
continued to
time.
go up.
We continue to get rec people that
The
want
trend
to
has been
transfer
moving.
medical.
And that's pretty evident with us internally, because we have a backlog of applications.
My only question, do you think that's going to change once rec's able to get everything else? Because that's our biggest thing right now. I'm seeing patients go that are rec, and now we're helping them get their card and that type of stuff and getting them signed up because they see what else is in the shop and they want.
The edibles,
The edibles, the topicals.
topicals.
We have a lot of people that are like, I just came here for topicals, I can't get that, and they don't even know that still is a rec. So we're still having to educate the public that they're only allowed to get flour. So we've noticed a more.
I can tell you just in the last month or two, and you guys are always a little behind just by the time everything hits the mailbox here. We were averaging at our clinic around 100 patients a month. And last month we served 26. Half of what being new and half of being return patients. And I'm still seeing a fair amount of new patients come out, but we watched the returning patients drop significantly.
Is that from another clinic being in town?
No.
I noticed Compassion Center, their numbers went down too around this time.
People, they can walk in and if they don't require the specialty products, a lot of people also are just growing their own now with
Well,
the
that's
general
true.
use side and don't see a real advantage in spending the money for it. So just really since October was when we started seeing the drop, and then November it was pretty much all over. And projected next month or for December this month, I would expect us to do fewer patients. We're not even doing it at a facility locally, someone's offered us a space to do it for free, or we wouldn't even be able to do that. So
Are you in Bend or you south?
right in the heart of Bend.
I just heard a lot down south.
And we're the town with 18 dispensaries and 80,000 people in it. So, marijuana is certainly embraced in our community, and it's just not being embraced medicinally as much as it has been in the past.
And too, since it's come out of the woodwork, so many people know somebody, and people are not afraid to share it anymore. It's gonna hurt a little bit too.
Well, that was an impediment before. You had to go pay for a card to try it out to see if it worked.
Yeah.
And then you've just lost all the money when you had some adverse effects or found that it just didn't meet your needs. Now they can just try it out and.
That may change when the taxes are not in January.
Yeah, that's, everyone's curious to see how that'll apply to.
Do you see see medical underwriting costs?
Can't answer that. I mean, I look based on the information I have, I can't answer. I just don't know. That would be a question for your legislature.
Which, you know, after he's been on the job 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
It's a tough question, I know.
Hey, guys, look, we've already finished the morning's work.
We are good.
But people haven't had a chance to review the minutes. Why don't you just take a short break and at least look at the action items, and we can go over those, and then maybe wait until the afternoon for the minutes, because you obviously can't approve those since you just got them.
Is he actual going in the office for this?
Yes.
This
You know,
is
in
my second
fact-
meeting, I'm a new guy.
In fact, Tris said some of us, when we were newer, we got tours. Tawana would take us on a tour of it, so that might be something that Andre could come up with at some point.
Sure.
And it's,
I would love
take
to
it
see
every
what
time it
goes on.
changes.
You have to have
every
a
time.
secret key to get in there. They have these doors that you don't even know there are people working there.
We have to protect PHI. We have security concerns.
Yeah.
We can do that. Think it'd be okay?
Do I think it would be okay? I agree.
It's my boss.
Smart.
So I mean, we can do it, you know, if you guys have time today, quick little tour, or we can do it at the next meeting. You know, we're separated on 3 different floors right now, and we do have plans whenever to consolidate onto one floor, so we'd have everybody, the dispensary unit and the card holder unit all on one floor. Right now, we're kind of separated, and that's.
We have time before lunch. We always
We could do
like
that.
surprise inspections.
Yeah, we could do that and then just come back
You might be a little unimpressed.
after lunch.
Or do we want to shift some of this morning's
To get out early.
business? Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta drive back to Benham, I'm a little freaked out by the ice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm driving back to.
I didn't even go for Thanksgiving.
It's up
So,
to you, or, you know, after the meeting.
I don't mind ending
Anyone
the
that wants to
meeting,
stick
though.
around,
Yeah.
anyone that wants to stick around, we give them a quick $3 tour.
yeah.
Just make sure everyone knows, wants to do public comment, that it might be earlier too.
So why don't you take 10 minutes at least and look over your minutes,
I reviewed them last
and then
night,
we'll
too.
reconvene. To order again, as soon as Gabby gets over here to take minutes. Meeting is called back to order, and we're going to, I'd like to go over the action items from the last time. Well, Mr. Wagner's gone, and we do have our timeline now, because we have the rules. Did people get that grower survey? I have a vague memory of, we had an online survey that we got.
I sent that out.
Oh.
Okay.
And then Simon Seth responded with his survey.
That's right, okay. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta look at that, yeah.
Recommendations to the OLCC. Is OHA still making recommendations to OLCC? Do you know about that yet?
Well, we have a conference call with them on a bi-weekly basis. So we do discuss coordination efforts with them, in addition to ODA, specific to the pesticide rules, which we have a call coming up, I think this Friday, with ODA and OLCC. So we are in communication with our sister agencies.
Okay.
Any concerns they have, you know, they can always contact us. I know that OLCC is engaging in a public information campaign. They kind of have a bus tour going on month of December. We'll be in Bend tomorrow. And it's kind of like a business 101.
Oh, right, I guess I read about that.
So any issues that come up with OHA at those meetings, they'll communicate to us, and then we'll be at the meetings here in Portland with them.
Doing one for the government agencies and then one for the general public, it sounds like.
Yeah, for like cities and local municipalities.
Great. We did get the meeting minutes posted. Aaron, provider-only hotline. Aaron's left, so I don't know if he addressed that or not.
Without the change, I don't think he.
Yeah,
able to-
makes sense.
Yeah.
Education and outreach, we'll talk about that when we get to that point, Allegra. And everyone got travel reimbursement forms, and those should be in your packets today as well for this meeting. And then, as I understand it, the OMMP is already accepting applications for the new qualified condition, which is pervasive developmental or neurological disorders. So that's good. So to the minutes, are there any changes, comments, anything, amendments?
Just, I think adding one action item. I saw back here, we passed a motion, I think, for the outreach committee to draft a letter to Director Sexton regarding the 30-day rule.
Right. So that should be added to the action items as well. Gabby can make a note of that. Any other changes, amendments? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes then with that amendment?
I will motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay.
Yeah, we look good.
Oh, where did Jerry go? He's coming back, all right? So, oh yeah, so he is there. Do you want to go into the outreach and education report then?
Yeah, I would just give a quick update.
Okay.
I haven't been able to meet with any of the committee members. I do have a rough draft started on that letter, Todd. I've been speaking with Cheryl the last couple of weeks. Luckily, we did get a lot of those questions answered this morning based on the 30 days, and they are getting caught up. In my letter, I was just drafting that they are 2.5 months behind. How are we getting that set up? So I could shoot you a draft of that later this week, but we have kind of chosen not to send that at this point, just because we are getting our answers and they are getting a little bit more sped up.
And it sounds like it may be a moot point within the next 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
So I will keep that on the back burner, and I have it, so if we need it, we can toss it out there. And then I also was talking a little bit about the certifications for our bud tenders and that type of thing, what the OLCC is recommending. So I have done a little bit of research, and I think that we should, as OHA, have a little bit of a standard as well, just like the food handler's card or something that they might be able to go through training. So I'm working with ASA to try to get a little bit of information on that. And I think you also work with ASA?
Yeah,
On the
yeah.
certifications?
Yeah, I mean, their advisory, or their review board and auditor board.
So if I could shoot you a few emails, I have some questions on that, and that's where we stand right now.
Are there, does OLCC have bud tenders info published?
Not yet. What they're going to be doing is a training program, but they're going to have it like the food handler's card. So there's going to be a basic, I'm trying to think of the exact word they used to call it. Training, I forget what it was called, but they're actually going to have a section where there's going to be some education on basics.
Kind of like their OLCC training?
Yeah, they're saying probably a 2-hour reading course, follow up with them.
Yeah, the OLCC one's pretty undetailed. Especially if I've only gone through the ones where they're, well, I served the Habitat for Humanity or something.
Yeah, they said it's going to be general and streamlined, but it's, again, they just want to know who's working, who's certified, who's going to be there. I know a lot of their stuff too, you have to list out our managers as a advisory. You have to list out every manager, every employee, so they want to know who's going to be in that. And that's kind of their idea.
Well, that'd be good, and then maybe even more detailed since you're, without advising them medically,
Yeah.
to add that component to it as well. Thank you, Allegra. Jerry, you are on now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We
Whoa.
passed the minutes without you.
Oh, you know, the only thing I wanted to say about the minutes is I wasn't listed as present or absent. And I don't believe it.
Were you on the phone?
I was on the phone.
Well, at that.
Part of that time I was on the phone.
Oh.
I was also seeing a cancer specialist at the time about a couple of patients. So.
Yeah.
But I was tuning in.
Yes. Okay.
I was on mute.
Okay.
I was multi-tracking. I'm on, thank you. So, I want to give a little history and
And we have a handout in our packets.
We do, and apologies about that. It didn't translate well. For some reason, there was a problem with translation, but I believe it was on.
Oh, I see that, yeah.
And the letterhead got really kind of.
Yeah, when I tried to print it last time.
And so, yeah, there's the format that kind of transfers forward the student interaction. Okay, so this is a draft of a letter. It's gone through a number of drafts. I'm just a compulsive kind of guy who's working and reworking. So anyway, it's a work in progress. But I was hoping to get the endorsement of at least the advisory committee moving forward with a draft DA letter to Oregon Health Authority. This has not gone out. It is a draft. So a little background history over the, and I mentioned this earlier, the March 2015 ACMM meeting, I introduced an important research proposal and study, namely a comparison study that explores the risks and benefits of medical cannabis to narcotic analgesic medication in that pain. And you know, as all of us are aware, narcotic analgesic medication has a lot of flaws. It is a gateway drug. The state is spending their budget for this, for dealing with narcotic abuse and recovery, is huge. And I think medical cannabis offers a lot of promise. When I start to look at the statistics here with 40,000 patients alone, or whatever the statistics are, have entered for a chronic painful condition, it certainly is a prominent reason people have signed up for medical cannabis. When I look at those statistics, I say, well, this is an incredible research opportunity to really look at this in a state that in 2012 was really at the number one state in terms of narcotic abuse per capita. I'm saying, gee, this is a fertile environment for research in terms of how did these patients, the 40,000 or the 57,000, how did they transition off of narcotics? And many of them were on narcotics, and many of them continue to be. But this is fertile ground. We're sitting on top of what everybody dreams of as the perfect research study. So I presented this as one of many studies that really deserves timely scientific investigation. And at that meeting, there was unanimous support amongst the ACMM members that the OMMP petition the Oregon Health Authority for a portion of the annual profits generated from OMMP card sales, again, 8.5 billion or whatever, a huge amount, to be applied to medical cannabis research prior to removing the funds for the doctors for distribution to other non-OMMP OHA programs. Well, since that time, I have been brought up to speed. I've seen a little bit more insights that these funds are really not available. We can provide some advisory input, but really it's the legislature that manipulates these funds. With that said, it seems that research has been a quintessential and responsible component of any medical board or institution. It seems that medicine was really shaped by scientific research over the last 125 years, and to really divorce these two, separate these two, does not establish sound medical programs that are really based on research and on need. I can speak for the ACMM with their unanimous support of this decision that the OMMP program is really falling short of their obligation to fund and endorse sound research practices. In spite of this decision for OMMP or OHA not to really sponsor or endorse research, exciting, profound, and life-changing investigational research is proceeding in the United States and worldwide, with or without Oregon. And again, I think Oregon can really be a leader in scientific investigation and research. So investigation research is moving forward at lightning speed without Oregon. Research and medical excellence are opportunities gained or opportunities lost. Oregon is currently positioned to be a major player at the forefront of scientific investigation. So 9 months later, today, I am approaching OMMP and the Oregon Health Authority once again, not for fiscal support, because I know that's really out of our hands, and not in a manner that causes undue legal exposure. It is my hope to receive Oregon's stated commitment and written endorsement of statewide medical and horticultural cannabis research. I am of the sincere belief that an endorsement supporting medical and industrial research has an opportunity of inviting collaboration with institutions of higher education. I was out there making a phone call just now. I came in, I'm meeting later today with a national college that's really excited about this. So it has an opportunity of inviting collaboration with institutions of higher education and industry alike, and of welcoming economic growth and development, medical excellence, and job opportunities to the state. This is an opportunity with great upside and with little downside. So here is an analogy. Counties and states that are not business friendly have witnessed that economic development does not wait, but steamrolls forward by relocating to other business-friendly countries, counties, and states. The same holds true with research and development in medical cannabis and industrial hemp. Health Research Institute, I'm the director of that organization. It's a nonprofit 501c3 education and research organization that was founded in '83. Has been exploring plant medicines since that time, and over the last 2 years has probably shifted over to about 95% medical cannabis and industrial cannabis. Health Research Institute and a number of other R&D companies are discovering that it's easier to establish relationships in other states, for example, Florida, Kentucky, and Colorado, than in countries like Israel, than in the state of Oregon. These are opportunities that will not wait. I invite OMMP and OHA to partner with and endorse other R&D institutions of higher learning and organizations like the Health Research Institute and a new player that we've had the opportunity of meeting called Medica. We met them in Prague. Some of our scientific board went to a meeting in Prague and met Medica. And word that there is an interest that they have in gaining access to Oregon just because of the many reasons. There's too many reasons they were saying that they'd love to be here. Medica is responsible for establishing Israeli Cannabis Research Institute, which is affiliated with Hebrew University, with Dr. Meshulam's team, and with a number of Israeli hospitals that are conducting current trials right now. So I think these sort of affiliations would move Oregon a giant leap forward. And in my belief, that's where Oregon should be playing, at that kind of level with statewide, federal, and international research teams. On a slightly different note, literally hundreds of breakthrough peer-review articles that HRI has been reviewing conclude with a basic and common invitation, namely that more research is necessary in the field of cannabis medicine. So I believe that a letter of endorsement from the state and from OHA, a position statement that identifies the potential benefit of medical cannabis and endorses the statewide scientific exploration of the application of cannabis medicine, its risks and benefits, safety and efficacy, would help to create a more fertile ground in Oregon and extend an invitation to R&D institutions and companies to plant themselves in Oregon, like television medicine, to align themselves with state institutions and organizations like Health Research Institute, UMO, OSU, the National College, and again, we have staff at a number of these institutions that are really excited about this. So this sort of collaboration is just waiting to happen. I think what would really free them up would be a state-endorsed research platform. So I think the first thing I'm really looking for is the blessing of ACMM, that research is a necessary component of any sound medical program. With that said, if that is supported, I would really love to see a letter like this in a little different format that wasn't blasted by sending it over the internet. Go to the state to ask for this sort of collaboration, not for money, because I understand those avenues are going to close till 2017. But it would free up institutions like Health Research Institute and procuring private funding and funding from other sources. So that said, I would make a proposal that this sort of thing, I'd open it up for discussion first. Do that.
Are you making a motion? Are you making a motion?
No, I'm opening it up for discussion.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I would research. I'd like to comment that if you review some of the exit reports from prior administrators, I particularly remember Grant Higginson, the first administrator over this program. In his exit report, strongly recommends that the OHA engage in cannabis research. I believe Jody Newman's exit report said the same thing. I would, I don't think it's necessarily a statutory charge of the OMMP to conduct research, but I think it is within the purview of the Oregon Health Authority. So I strongly support his proposal and engaging in medical and horticultural research. I think Dr. Weberger is correct in that Oregon's missing enormous research opportunities, and especially being one of the first states for adult use, that it's important that be studied, for a public health perspective. So I strongly support Dr. Weberger's proposal.
And this is research that really needs to be done. We did a real brief survey one of the first couple of years when I was running Compassion Center. We surveyed the patients and found a number of them. We of course didn't compare it to medical records. That's where you need to go a little deeper on the whole thing. But we found a substantial percentage had used cannabis to get off of opiates, tobacco, alcohol. And this is a known fact, and it's been published in harm reduction journals. And I mean you mentioned other studies, but that one is really critical, I think.
In my opinion, this is a study just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
We have a huge number of people who participate. I believe some of the studies, there's a lot of criticism because they're using such small numbers of 10 patients, 20 patients, 100 patients. I think we have a golden opportunity right here to really publish good demonstrable research and to be a player in this field. Right now, we're a player in the other field where in 2012, again, we were right at number 1. In 2014, we were number 3 in terms of narcotic abuse. These are things that need to turn around. They're costly programs that are not serving patients. They're serving big pharma. 99% of the Vicodin in the world is used in the United States. These are things we need to be embarrassed about, and we, Oregon, should be at the cutting edge of this in helping to reverse this trend. And I think through medical marijuana and a number of other things, there are exciting things coming down the pipeline that Health Research Institute is currently looking at. I think we really have golden opportunities. And the other thing I'm finding that Oregon is just filled with smart people. I'm humbled by the people who sit on our scientific advisory board. I'm looking at the opportunities here, just with smart people in Oregon who really want to see good research be done. It would be a shame for OHA and OMMP not to dive into this thing and to find, at least to endorse this thing. And I think it will free up a lot of research funds.
I think Oregonian patients would be wanting to be involved as well. I think a lot of people here are passionate about the future of Oregon.
Can I say a corollary to this? There was a research advisory committee that was put together through Senate Bill 844 in the last session. I think everyone has been selected for that, and they were supposed to have a report, a final report, or at least an intermediate report that was due December 15th. Has there been any connection between OMMP and that research task force?
Is this the recreational task force?
No, this is a research task force. It's
Senate Bill 844.
and I know that there was at least some folks. The application process took place. People were appointed. Provided a lot of journalists at this point. Because it was, I think, is it located at OSU or is it's being facilitated through OHA at this point? Any dates on that? Any connection?
So the OHA recommendations to the governor's office for that advisory committee are with the governor's office right now.
So it hasn't fully been formed yet?
No.
Okay. So December 15th might be pushing it. Okay.
So what was that number?
Senate Bill 844. It's the task force on researching the medical and public health properties of cannabis.
It's to submit the report described to the Legislative Assembly no later than February 1st, 2016. And OHA shall provide staff support to the task force, blah, blah. Yeah. Is there more discussion, or do we have a motion to go ahead with Jerry's proposal? Do you want to give me words for a motion?
So I-
Gabby?
Motion to support.
I'm proposing that ACMM proposes to OMMP and OHA support and collaboration in developing a sturdy research platform to perform in-depth studies on the efficacy of cannabis-based medicines.
Can you say that again? I bet Gabby didn't get up those words.
ACMM proposes to OMMP and OHA their support and collaboration in developing a sturdy research platform to perform in-depth studies on the efficacy of cannabis-based medicines. It goes on with opportunities for medical excellence, education, economic development, job growth, and collaboration amongst institutions of higher education, research institutes, and industry. ACMM supports the OHA in wordsmithing a position statement. I'll send this. Are you keeping up?
Yeah, you're not. Well, I think we just need the first part of that motion, and then we can go forward with that.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I'll send it as a corollary.
Okay.
ACMM supports OHA in wordsmithing a position statement that endorses statewide medical and industrial cannabis research through OMMP and other statewide agencies. So I will send that on. But I think that corollary is really important because the bottom line is a position statement endorsing medical and industrial cannabis research is the crucial thing. It creates a fertile ground for industry to move to Oregon and really establish themselves in the research. And that's what's critically needed in this world right now. Because this is a plant that offers so much.
So that's your motion. Is there a
Jerry's
second?
position.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
So, thanks, Ben. With that
Okay.
said,
Absolutely, you're welcome.
yeah, what I'd like to do with with that is to just pass this letter on to you and have you deliver it to this section. Okay. Would that be okay?
I thought it was a draft. I'd be happy to help you with editing it
Yeah,
to
there's a
perfection.
few. I feel good with this last copy. This is
Okay.
This is a ninth copy.
Oh, this is not this copy. Okay, I get it.
This is the ninth copy. Thank you.
All right, I'm sure. Be happy to do that.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn until 1:05, and then we'll talk about the fee structure and anything else that people want to talk about vis-a-vis the proposed rules. You can see under the new and renewal fees, still have our $200, and we have our discounted fees. You get to page 9, number 3 and 4, we have an unknown grower fee and an unknown change of grower, grows at registration fee. And still have the $100 replacement fee. So I'll open that for discussion. And start by saying, I think $200 is too high. I think it should be at least half that, if not back to the $50 we had originally.
But are we able to change that by rule?
That's where it is in the rules. And as
Well,
I
it's in the rules because it's in statute, right?
no, it's not in the statute.
No.
Okay.
No.
We're given broad authority to set fees.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So it's in the rules. And when I was sitting there on Monday in the rules committee, I thought, oh my God, we need to.
Here's our chance.
Yeah, if we want to change it, if we have any time we can change it, now is it. But it's not going to get changed after the rules are passed.
Is Carla available to punch numbers real quick?
Carla's not available, and you know that was the problem, that I wasn't able to get her to. I mean, I can ask her again, see if she suddenly go through and do that. With our new numbers now too, that would potentially make a difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, do we have an app panelist, whether in your program or not?
Yeah, how would we go about doing that to come up with what is reasonable? How much do we need to bring in?
I mean, we do have plans to hire an economist
Uh-huh.
at some point to do that analysis,
Mhm.
but we currently don't.
But we won't be hiring one until these rules are passed, most likely, or.
We have scenarios that we've worked with the budget and development unit
Uh-huh.
to, come up with what is it we need to cover costs and enhancements to make sure we can address these things.
And so what kinds of things have you found, if you can share that, Carol?
I don't
Have you
have-
looked at lower numbers than these?
No, we have not, but I certainly will.
Yeah, because, I mean, this number.
I didn't look at changing or modifying any of that just from not knowing
Uh-huh.
the history.
Yeah, even projecting how many dispensaries, new ones versus current ones. What about all that money that's coming in?
Yes, in the dispensary side, looking at that, we're also are looking at the covering of the cost of all the additional staff that we're going
Sure.
to bring on board, as well as all the systems in place.
Yes.
The database and all of that enhancement. And then that's the side where it's not the card side that we're looking at, the projections of numbers decreasing, it's the dispensary side that we're trying to figure out that moving target of who really is going to go retail only. So that's the harder part, and it would be, it would be great if my economist was hired now, but they're not, so.
Do you have a fixed cost right now it takes for operations, or out of the budget, is it like a 50% of the budget is fixed cost?
I don't have that number on hand, but I could get to that.
Because just personally speaking, when the rules do come out, it would be nice to see the change in the fact, even if it's a slight change, that the amounts go down. Because then the perception to the card holders is, thank goodness, it's not a 3% increase, 5% increase, or 50% increase, it actually decreased. And even if it is a smaller amount, at least the direction was a decrease, not an increase.
I agree.
And that's why it'd be very helpful to know the fixed cost and operating cost, because then you know really, at that point, exactly what you gotta bring in just to keep operations going. And truly, when you see all the other programs and that, even though they're good programs, but to be bared on the back of someone who's struggling to make a $200 or $500 investment every year to carry their car, it would be nice, even if it's, 5% or 10% reduction.
Especially in light of the fact that, these other programs are going to be in deep trouble if the medical cannabis program starts going down.
Aaron, I remember last meeting gave us a little bit on the cost to run the application. He said it was like $35 for the background check. He was trying to say that there was a minimum, I think, of $73 or something like that was needed for the application to actually pay for the personnel, the background check.
Cost.
Yeah. So my recommendation is $100. I think that's a great recommendation. I don't think it's gonna cut you guys as much as the OMMP program, and then also it won't be such a big gouge, because I notice a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't qualify for OHP or SNAP. Why do they get $50 or $20 and I have to pay $200? It's such a huge gap for that discount. But I think $100 would be a reasonable amount to cover costs and still make a profit.
There's another huge gap that's not a popular one to talk about, and that is that veterans that make a huge amount of money per month are still eligible for the $20 discount, and down to $20, and it's just not PC to say anything negative about veterans, but the fact is that not all these veterans are poverty level, and some of them make a pretty substantial chunk, and they're only paying the $20. So I know why that decision was made.
What's the percentage on that now? I thought the veterans had to have a disability. It wasn't 80%. Do you think it's 100%?
100%.
100%. So if it's less than 100%, they don't get a discount.
And those are the people that need it the most, right? If you have somebody who's got like a 30% disability, and maybe that's the only money they're getting versus 100%, like if they were high up in the military, they're going to get a lot of money for that. So to me, it made no sense.
It's 100% in one of the categories, and the other one is
PTSD.
If they have PTSD, or if they have a needs-based pension from the VA, based on a finding of the VA that's non-service.
Non-service related.
It seems like that would take a lot of staff time to determine that for each individual, does it?
I mean, they need to submit the documentation, the staff just reviews if the documentation is what wants to be.
I guess that's one of the discounts I've been more confused about sharing with people. And I'm supposed to be pretty sharp on this stuff. So I know that's one of the newer discounts, and it's also one of the more confusing ones to share with people. Unless some of us have been in the veterans world there, I mean, I'm not really sure what that means, or what those documents look like, and that's a population that also has a difficult time sometimes accessing some of that stuff. That's what we've learned, and they tend to get very frustrated as well when they can't access that. So it's an interesting discount, and it's probably one of the more vague ones out there for a lot of folks.
So that, in the booklet that we have, is there, I know there's pictures of a lot of documents you need. Is that in there? Like what kind of, okay. The letter you need or something?
The letter with the part that it has to show 100% or pension.
Okay. So I would say check that.
Yeah, I guess it's the pension part, because it's...
And isn't the $20 fee on that statutory?
It's only if it's a veteran with PTSD, that's the statutory requirement. So if you're an armed forces veteran with PTSD, it doesn't matter what your level of disability is, or if you have a need-based pension, you pay $20, and that's the legislature.
I just cleared it up for anything.
So, discussion on the fee. We're going to leak with things. Todd?
I think perhaps this might help you, is just simplifying all the low income to one fee, or all the discounted fees to one fee.
Yeah.
Eliminating or reducing the replacement card fee to something that's more, like the cost of replacement card, lifetime card. If I don't know if we can do that by, well, we probably can't do that by rule, but I think that's
Yeah, there's nothing in here where we can change longevity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the replacement card fee or the changing of grower or something. Part of the effect of that is sometimes things work out beautifully between patient and grower, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, oftentimes the patient is in a very difficult position, and having that $100 fee to replace or to change their grower makes it that much harder for them to get out of the relationship. And so it's significant impact to patients who are may not have had a relationship that worked out with their grower.
Well, and in light of the coming changes, that's gonna, growers are gonna be limited on patients, and we know that there are gonna be a bunch of patients lose their grower. Those patients, let's say the month before, they had no knowledge, because a lot of people don't know this stuff is happening. So they had no knowledge. They pay all their money, and the next month the grower is like, sorry, but you're one of the two that I'm getting rid of because I'm only allowed to have X number of patients. Now they got to come up with that $100 as
I
well.
personally just had to do that.
There are going to be a lot of changes over the next year.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Patient
And so,
registration's a lot.
yeah. So that it's only going to get worse, and then more staff time taking phone calls from angry people.
Todd, I do agree with you though.
I never understood why we had the $50 discount fee for OHP and $60 for food stamps folks. Why don't we just make it $55 for everybody? And it just seems odd.
And in fact, a lot of people had both, and then they just switched over to the one that gave them the best deal.
Well, when you see the amount of people, I mean, I know the state's been pushing people on the Oregon Health Plan, and you look at the substantial increase amount of folks getting that OHP discount. That
Here's
is
the other thing.
substantial. And one of the things I've been told for a fact is here that if a person with a $20 SSI discount or PTSD discount loses their card, their replacement card is $20. However, someone with the OHP discount, they're still paying the $100 replacement card discount. I'm not sure why that doesn't apply to both discounted groups. This seems like a little bit of a
Inconsistency.
Yeah, I think everyone stated it perfectly, a consolidation, a single fee structure, a discounted fee structure, where nobody can claim inequality or discrimination just because my condition is perceived not as grievous as the next person.
So are people generally in agreement on that as a recommendation we want to make, is consistency amongst discount amounts?
And what we've found too, just dealing with the patients themselves, it's adequate for us to scan in and send a copy of their OHP card. However, it's not adequate to send in a copy of their Oregon Trail card for the food stamp, so they have to go get an award letter. Yeah, is it okay to use the card?
And not only that, don't you have access to the database?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're double checking.
Yeah, so for a while there, at least we were told.
We were
could
told
use
that
it.
too.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
that was
did
a
not
couple
know
years
that,
ago.
so thank you.
The only issue I have with the making one consistent reduced fee for all categories is that you have, it looks like $20 reduced fee for people that are on federal benefits, whether it's VA or Social Security, at $20, and then you have the Oregon programs, which range from $50, $60, $50 or $60. So if you increase the people that have been paying from $20 to $50, they're all going to be very angry because now they're paying $30 extra. I could see us maybe being a little bit consistent between and making a delineation between those people claiming federal benefits and getting a reduced fee from the federal benefits, and then as opposed to the people that are on the Oregon programs.
Staff and OHP.
Yeah, instead of having it 1560, maybe that being consistent between the Oregon programs. Because you're not going to please everybody, and we might actually make more people angry if we increase it from $20 to a consistent $50 across the
If you
board.
reduce them all to 20, I don't think anyone would complain.
Well, then we have to look at our costs, and is that going to support our costs of operation and expenditures? And that's the big question. I think we can run a projection, a scenario to see what happens when we reduce the fee from $200 to $100. Are we going to cover our OMMP expenditures and costs?
Yeah, that would be my biggest concern.
And that's where knowing your fixed cost
Right.
is so important.
Right. And that's stuff we can look into when we're discussing fees in the next couple of weeks when we're setting these rules. We will run those scenarios to see what can we afford. In addition, this is another thing that you have to think about is that you reduce fees now. You have a significant drop in participation in the program next year. You don't have enough money based on the current fees that you drop now. When you raise fees, there's going to be a significant public outcry raising fees back up from 100 to whatever it needs to be, $102. So reducing fees has some implications and consequences in the future when you want to be able to raise those fees back up.
So when you say, Andre, that just goes along with our taxes, I mean, you get so frustrated with the
Sure.
system because in an abundance of caution, nobody wants to predict the future because nobody controls the future. But if we never ever show a true intent to reduce something, then the perception is just like taxes. You can say all you want, oh, when the program's fat, you're going to get money back, we're going to reduce it. It has never happened. Have our taxes ever gone down? No, and it's that same thing to where I think as an advocate or a patient, if these new rules come out, and when I was paying 200, but now I'm only paying 190, at least that's a decrease. It isn't $220. Or at least it's like finally it went in the right direction. Whether that decrease is only 0.5% or whatever it covers for our fixed cost plus a buffer, of course. But to see that actually come down, you could almost say, look, it did come down at one time. But to sit there and I agree with you, and accountants and economists are always saying, but what if, and we never see a reduction in any.
That point's well taken, and I was just trying to make the point that if we do a huge reduction from 200 to 100, that might, maybe we can look at more incremental decreases in fees would be more appropriate.
And then a period to review them again, that these rules are consistent to a sunset clause where they'll be reviewed again for.
I propose maybe, the first place that we look at a fee reduction is the reduced fee, before considering moving it from 200 to 100, because that's the part of that's the population that needs it the most. It'll help you guys with, with your simplicity of processing applications. The discounted cards make up, about 44%. So it is significant.
30%. Oh yeah. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
40.
So it is significant, but
well, we're definitely open to looking at what we can do with adjusting fees and still meeting our expenditures in our budget.
And just looking at this, Andre, I hate to kind of disagree with you, but you're only looking at 7% who are on the SSI and the VET, where you're looking at 56% who are on non-fee reduced. So you're looking at pissing off 7% compared to not pleasing 56%. So I would really suggest that we do look at that fee reduction and make it equal in that, and I would change my recommendation to 150 and then everybody else be at 50.
We were at 150 at one point.
We were, and then it was 50.
I remember it was $100.
It was 100, and then it was 150, and then it was a $50 grower fee, so then it was 200, and now it's 250.
Very early on, we dropped it down to $50.
It went to 50 because there was a decrease when there was so much money being made. Then they decreased it, and then out of nowhere, it got increased for no apparent reason.
When they first stole the money out of the bank
because there was
account.
a couple of legislative sessions where they just grabbed the money and
Exactly.
But I mean, no apparent reason in terms of how much it costs to run the program.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and right following that, it went back up.
Ben?
Hello, this is Ben McInnes. Is it all right to speak up real quick? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Yeah. Great. I had a question in relation to when you talk about the monies being spent on. Well, let me back up just a second. I will have to recollect my thoughts here, but. I guess from the simple calculations I did, because I've done these a couple times, just going off the gross numbers that were reported in the interview process, as you remember, for hiring you, that they reported something at $60 million in a biennium is what they were talking. The budget for this are $6 million for biennium for the OLCC side, and for the OMMP side, that's what's for the OMMP side. And so my question is, and looking at it, extrapolating it, it seems like the 150 would more than cover it, as well as dropping the 50 to 30. What it may do is it may short by, it looks like, about $1 million some of the new funding that it looks like, new money that's being drawn out, or more than, like way more. The new funding that's being drawn out is like $6 million. The idea would be is to ask one question, and one question mainly: what happens if we let's say collect less money than we're supposed to collect 1 year? What occurs then? Does some magical, do we go bankrupt, or do those services we're funding we no longer fund? How exactly does that work when there's a situation in essence, what you're doing is building a new company and growing it up, building out this whole new processes. And what percentage, my first question is, what percentage of that are you doing on long-term expensing out, not just on a capital gain level? And then what percentage of it's just you're going to try to recapture in just this year? But if you take it out over an amortized basis, it seems like at the very fundamental level that 150 and even dropping down to 20 in any case would fund the current actual costs of the OMMP more than enough. And if you tweak the budgetary numbers, it looks like you can show a strong case for not at all disappearing, not all the people coming off the program, unless that's the intention of the state, right? Which it doesn't seem like it is if they're trying to keep taking more money and charging more money. So my question is that twofold. One, can you elaborate on what will happen if the funds aren't there? And then two, we know what will happen if there's a surplus, but what does happen?
You go to the E-Board, which is the emergency board of the legislature, to try to get a change if there's not enough money to fund all these things. Since they're the ones.
And then if there was, and you're in process with the OLCC about transferring that over to the rec side, don't you think that that would precipitate that event? So in other words, at every level, it seems like everybody's in agreement that this could actually help facilitate that move over if we didn't reach numbers. And if we did reach numbers, which there's many projections that show we could and probably will, then it bears the question, why not just try? Because it ends up being a win-win either way.
You lost me. Anybody else?
Well, what I mean is, if you drop, let's say, to 150 and 20, right? And it doesn't, for whatever reason, if we don't reach funds, it would just get reassigned somewhere else, the collection of those funds, correct?
No.
No? What would happen then? They wouldn't get funded?
Yeah. We would have a budgetary shortfall, and that's not going to be good.
Okay, so then the question is, and what we're saying is that if we don't know any of the numbers about what we're going to be increasing at this point, or we don't have any numbers. Is that correct?
Nothing.
So we're basing a recommendation off not having any numbers.
Right. Right now, we don't have
projections.
projections.
So the first thing I would say is that we've been trying to, get these numbers forever. And what I see is going to happen is that once again, behind closed doors, the numbers just get, you get to choose the budget, you get to choose every piece of it, right? And so, do we have a say if we're still not allowed to look at the numbers? And do you guys really have a say if you don't know the numbers?
I think we have a say, but the thing is, can we back up what we're saying when we've got no numbers to base our recommendations on, then how much do they get paid attention to?
Well, they can't because we've got no factual data. You see what I'm saying? The problem is we can't get factual data.
Yeah,
We're charged with doing this, but we still can't gain the factual data.
Right. But part of the factual data is just projections. It's just kind of like, well, let's hope that, this is what we think's going to happen. Carol?
No, the factual data we know is we know what the projected expenses, hard costs. They know that the state of Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, correct me if I'm wrong, knows empirically, someone knows what the actual cost of operating it is, right?
Yes.
Based on their expansions,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Isn't that required?
Yeah.
Someone has that number, correct? Just that one number.
Yep, wait 1 second, Ben.
So we have the budget for 2013-15, and we have the actual projections and the expenditures for that biennium. And so yes, I mean, in essence, when you said, do we know how much it costs? Yes, we can say, in 2013-15, this is what we spent. There may be a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm having troubles hearing you. I apologize. I can barely hear you.
If you want to come up here, Carol, where he can hear you better, please feel free.
So the budget that was handed out is for the 13-15 biennium. And so we have the ending number for that time, which shows what we expended for the 13-15 biennium. It also includes the projections that were, moved on forward for C-Care and the
Based on the expansion we're undertaking.
No, this is just what was expended. So you have to then, then you get into, we are doing the expansion. So that's the 15-17 biennial budget. So we don't, we know that OAS could be at $2 million, and there's some projections, but the hard numbers on that we're in the process of figuring that out. Part of it is determining the fee. On the card side of this, we didn't project any changes, and I think that wasn't built into the scenario when we were looking at this fee. We were looking more at the new fees that were going to be coming forward. So when you were saying there were no hard numbers, I guess we would be basing it based on the historical data and based on the fees that are currently happening. So
Not on projections of the fee lower.
yeah, we didn't have any of that as even part of the scenarios because that didn't come into question in the last month.
Oh, no, I get that, but,
Yeah.
and I'm not blaming anyone, please don't hear that. I think everybody's doing great. It's really what I'm trying to understand is, I'm sort of simple. I try to get just big, simple numbers, right? Because I don't want to go through the depth. And it seems like the piece that I'm missing is that you can project out in this business model very easily what your expenses are. Also, you can also model out what that would look like in different scenarios based on, just a very simple model based on an income basis, based on patients, also based on growers and caregivers, but also based on, this transition of taking in the dispensary program as part of it, right? Those are the pieces that when I look at it, is that something that you guys are doing now, or is that some data that we could have, like, before all this goes down in a few days? I mean, what can we get any of that basic information to really make, be able to advise on the pricing, the fee structure?
Or can we ask you to let us know, what's the impact of using some certain different numbers? Like if we give you $150 a patient and then 25 for the low income.
Yeah, then we could run some scenarios.
Yeah, so if we could do that, then
That's
we...
kind of what we're in the process of trying to do. And we will have to come forward with some proposals for the next RAC meeting on
Okay.
Monday. And
So
that-
if you could do that, if that could be our recommendation, that you take to the RAC meeting proposals of different fees and maybe not lowering it that much, but something, or maybe real low, 100 versus 150 or 175 and then equalize
So it
it.
just got real scratchy all of a sudden, sorry.
Yes, and on our end too.
We thought you were driving around, Ben.
And making SNAP and OHP the same, make it both $50. How do you guys feel about that?
Just really quickly, I was doing just a little bit of math where we were sitting here, and you take the amount of patients and take out the percentage that is done with, sorry, I'm a bookkeeper, so numbers.
Oh,
are
good.
things. I love numbers. But you take out the percentage that are on that reduced fee, you're still looking at over 6 million a year if people are renewing at 150. So I mean, you're still looking at a huge revenue. That's not
Sure.
including, renewing grower fee. That's not even, I'm not
So what's
just
the
including the
decrease
150.
in revenue for those people that fit? So $50 each times however many patients.
So
Well, to get back to you, I propose maybe our goal would, for this meeting, maybe is to come up with 3 scenarios that we give to you. We run the numbers and give
That's
us.
what I was gonna say, I was gonna take
I like that.
notes and.
That would
wait
be,
for your
I like
final
that.
I like that.
It seems like the obvious, easiest way to reduce fees significantly would be to eliminate the transfers to the other program out of the OMMP, which would be my fantasy way to do it.
Dream
Which
on.
would significantly reduce the numbers, and really, and I'm serious when I really believe that really ethically should happen.
But that's the legislature,
I
and that's the
understand
part
that.
that's
I
out of our
understand that.
hands.
I understand
And
that.
that's why we want to focus on the rulemaking, because that's something we can impact.
See, there's a whiteboard in this room.
Oh.
I know, I wish we
I mean, I don't want to put the program in a position down the road where, they're going to be scrambling to provide the services, which is going to, put us right back where we are today and what's moving forward. So, just not having the numbers, I'm not even feeling comfortable throw a bunch of darts at the board and hope something sticks.
I think the best situation for committee now is just to propose some fee structures, and we can bring those in good faith to when they're at, and say, look, this is our projected revenue with these current fee structures.
There's no real program to be sitting on.
No.
Not running a
Wait
profit,
for
for-profit
these.
organization.
And I see the tears when people realize they got to pay another $200. And I've also watched people that went and got food stamps and may only get like $8 a month on it just to get that $150 discount.
And I've seen people come in and pay for the doctor and the clinic and get everything signed, and then they can't come up with the money in time to say, and they pass their date, and then they're screwed. They've spent $150 or whatever, 175, and
We
they're
have one
upset
planning
about
in town that's been really good with people that that's happened. So I've been trying to work with a couple of companies that's happening a lot. Do we want to talk about the grower fees and grower registration so that in that we have a full recommendation for what Todd's doing right now?
Yes.
Does anybody have a Sharpie marker or something?
Oh, well, mine's yellow. It's
Highlighter.
I got 2 yellow ones. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. See you back there.
Well prepared actors there.
Yeah, why aren't you up here?
Well, I think, first of all, to start out with, I would suggest we look at taking the normal patient down to 150.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would like to carry on the discussion about the program.
Okay. Because we're gonna have to do each of these, what our recommendation is on each of them, so.
Well, I think it would be good to look at the whole.
The big picture, yeah.
I personally think grower fee should be $100. They're getting the option to not only grow for that patient, but they are able to sell the excess still. And then the change of the grow site should go down to 50. Grower fee $100. Right now it's 50. I think I believe it should be $100, and then change of the grow site would be $50. I don't see that changing.
There's been some discussion on the RAC of having a separation between growers who sell commercially and growers that grow just for patients and don't sell their stuff. And so I would wonder, I don't know how hard it would be for you guys to track, but maybe there should be a difference between those two. So you have $50 for the growers that aren't selling to the dispensary, because not every grower is making money. And just like not every grower is growing 6 plants per patient.
And
Maybe the grower is growing 1 plant for themselves and 1 plant for their patient.
not every grower is making money.
Right.
There's some growers who are buying their 4th house. And so I think it's really good to look at, that's why I want to look at the whole picture, because there are certain people that are really benefiting enormously. And there are other people who are really underserved.
So
I guess I just don't see that underserved market. I get a lot of awesome.
So scenario that we've discussed is that because grower is intimately connected with patient per statute, it's hard to divide up something into commercial and non-commercial status, because we need to know, patient needs to identify grower when they apply. So we were thinking that if you grow for yourself and 1 other person, then you would have no additional fee or a reduced fee. Now, if we reduce the application fee from $200 to $150 or something like that, then we would have to think about maybe some sort of fee for growing for yourself and 1 other person. Once you've exceeded 2 patients, now you're growing for 3 or 4 patients, then you pay an increased fee.
I like that.
That I could see.
Well, it kind of matches with the 12 plant urban limit too, so.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So no fee if you're just growing for yourself or yourself and 1 other person, but then you'd pay a fee, which we could recommend be increased, like to your $100 if you're growing.
Remember, the patients pay the fees,
More
not the
than 2.
growers.
Well, it depends on where you're from, because I have seen growers come in and pay everything for patients.
Right. And we would, the patient and grower are linked, but we would ultimately, the grower would be paying that fee based upon the amount of patients they have attached to that grower.
And can the fees that are increased help to subsidize the patient fees that are excessive?
That's where I was kind of hoping of raising it to $100, taking that away from the patient, because our
That's why I think it's really important to look at this whole picture, because I think there are winners, there are losers, there are those who are suffering.
But I agree with the small amount, like if they're just growing, because I wouldn't want to see that $100 limit on somebody who's just growing for his wife or, something like that. I agree.
The people that don't even go to dispensaries that don't sell their.
Are we, I just want to be very clear, is there going to be a permitting process for the OMMP for those to sell the dispensaries?
Producer?
Yeah, like a more of a producer like the OLCC is doing, or is it going to be the same transfer form? Patient has to fill it out, caregiver, grower, they all agree? Because right now we have transfer forms.
Right, there's still the transfer form, it's still in the rules.
Do you see that changing in the future where the grower is going to be licensed at all, or is it still going to be the patient?
Well, because of statute, the way that it's written, it's just the way that the legislator wrote it, is that the grower and the patient are just intimately linked. So unless there's some sort of legislative change uncoupling the grower from the patient, no. But we will be inspecting large medical grow sites. Like if you're growing for yourself at your resident, or you're growing for yourself and 1 other person at your residence, we're not going to expend resources and time to go make sure that they're compliant.
You can just start with these numbers and work backwards.
Right. We're going to be looking at grow sites with 2 growers and totals of 8 patients altogether, or a grower with 4 patients. That's what we'll be looking at for compliance enforcement.
I'm just wondering, because that grower fee could, that's what I was.
I also hear a lot of growers that have no interest continuing on growing, after all the reporting requirements, to come down the road too. And I'm already hearing them telling their patients, figure something out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Meetings, I'm not gonna do that.
Yep.
So that's probably gonna reduce a lot of those fees in itself right there, potentially.
Okay, so I just made a quick little chart, excuse my penmanship.
Thank you.
So these will be our 3 scenarios, 1, 2, 3. We have patient, normal, and reduced fee, grower, a grower who sells commercially and one who does not, grow site, change of grow site or grower, and then the replacement card fee. So that covers everything. I just didn't itemize the discounts. Are we in agreement to do one single discounted fee?
I don't think so. I mean, there was Andre's suggestion that there be a federal versus state, and because those are so wide that.
We could meet in the middle, like $30 or something.
Right.
I did like the OHP versus SNAP, just making that 50 and not having
I
that
did too.
$10. So I agree with that. I'm still in raising the other $20 one, but that's just me.
I think the blowback on that could be negative.
Well, what was it, just like 3 or 4%, to 5 or 6%?
7%.
7%.
Yeah.
It was on the SSI, or on the $20, the VA.
And SSI.
Yeah, SSI, that's what it's about. And the other ones are the SNAP.
Do you know blind people don't get SSI?
They get, what, SSD?
We tried processing a patient through here that had actually, he thought he had SSI, that he had like SSID for blind or something, and that actually wasn't covered under the discount. This guy was 100% blind, and I dealt with Aaron on that one actually, because then we were both blown away, because I remember back in the 60s, I thought SSI was for blind people. I remember commercials about it. And so that was a little bit of a strange little twist, but it did come up, and the guy ended up having to pay the full, $200 fee. He had money to do it, so that wasn't an issue, but we all ended up scratching his head, and actually it was even more hilarious because they kept sending him letters telling him that it wasn't any good. He obviously didn't see the letters. And so it was an interesting, odd thing with blind folks here. I just thought I'd just throw that out as a little sidebar.
The reason of that is because it's based on the disability, not on income. So he gets SSD because he qualifies for the disability, but he may not get SSI because he doesn't qualify for income.
It was like SSID. It was like a weird sub.
I've never heard that one, and I actually consult in this area.
State would accept it, though.
Okay, let's move forward. How do we want to, just to throw numbers out there, I would throw 150 for a regular patient number.
Okay.
As a starting point.
And so reduced fee considering for 150?
Like state or federal. I like the splitting them. I think that's a simple way to do that.
20, keep the 20 for the, or maybe up at the 25? Is that too much of a hardship on the SSI people? Up that to 25 and then?
I don't know, a lot of my SSI people get
I don't know.
Not SSI, they don't. No, 722 is what they get, everybody.
Or on the disability on the vet, so.
Oh, the vet, yeah, that's, yeah.
But I mean, that's included in the SSI.
So what do you think about that? Raise the $20 to 25 and then decrease the 50, 60, or make it 50.
So.
So SSI, and then for SNAP OHP 50.
Did you say 25?
Yeah, SSI, VA.
I had to raise them $5. I mean, that is all over the population. $5 might be.
Yeah, well, that's what I was asking. Is it too much?
I just think keep it at 20 myself. But it's not
Probably.
that
Well, we
simple.
can make that another scenario where we leave it.
Yeah.
So on that scenario.
So for another scenario, maybe can we look at it at a single reduced fee, like 30 or 35?
All the way across.
Something? What do people think? 35?
So if you're taking the 50 and 60 down to 35 and bringing the other ones up to 35, making it even.
Sure.
Yeah, and that way just the consistency and simplicity again for
Yeah,
processing
I agree with that.
paperwork and now instead of spending 2 minutes on an application, it's either yes or no.
Yeah.
It just moves it right along.
Okay, so 35. Okay. All right, are there any other reduced fee scenarios?
I would have one idea that would be the reduced fee for $20 for everyone that's on any reduced fee, and then keeping the non-reduced fee price, just drop it by like $10 or $20. So make the standard fee only go down a small amount, but then the reduced fee, everybody gets cut across the board down.
So it's like $180 for full pay and $20 for reduced.
For everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm thinking it might not be digestible because the reduced fee reduction may be so significant that it might not work out to reduce normal fee.
Well, I think it's about $1 million, right? So because if there's 44%, right, and we have, if we have 75,000 times 0.44, 33,000. So we're looking at 42,000 people, 42,000, and it's really, we're looking at 42,000, and it's a $20 difference, right?
Yeah.
A $30 difference, approximately, right? Did I lose you?
So bring
No, we're
everything down to 20.
Okay, so that's $1.26 million will be the difference to go for 44% of the population. Correct my numbers if I'm wrong, but so it looks like $1.25 million, or $1.26 million is what you're looking at as an additional cost, and we already have that in a surplus. So if we didn't even change the reduced fees, you know what I'm saying, even under the new numbers, the new money they're taking out, we'd still have a surplus. So looking at it under that scenario, I just don't see the $1.2 million. I see it as be a huge gesture. It would help the neediest, and at the same time, it just a token amount to the other patients that have medical conditions says something too, and they can have an understanding why the first drop would go to the neediest of the neediest in our community.
Yeah, you say that, but just to play devil's advocate here, I'm on the Oregon Health Plan. I have assets. They don't look at your assets. They only look at your income. My income sucks. But, so, you could have...
That's true.
Not that I have a ton of assets, but you could have like $1 million in assets and no income, and you're eligible for the Oregon Health Plan as it currently stands. I don't think it's going to last, but that is how this Medicaid expansion is going right now. So,
and but with that said, also, if you have $1 million house that you maybe paid, inherited, or paid 10 from your family, or paid 10 grand for, your asset's worth $1 million, still not bringing in any income. It's based on income, right? So if you're not bringing any income, you have a $1 million asset. If it's a family homestead, I'd rather not see them sell their $1 million asset just to be able to make, have an income.
Oh, they can
so
get a
someone who
roommate.
isn't having income still doesn't have an income. I think that the assets have a relevance, but I don't think they have a relevance to everyday living.
So, just in terms of moving along, is there
Yeah, sorry.
any things we should use a different lower figure for the regular patient, lower than 150? Or is that a good?
That's as low as we expect.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And then do you want to go along with Ben's suggestion of 180 and everybody else at 20? I'm really hesitant to.
It'll be one of our 3 proposals, but
Let me ask a question.
Yes.
Somebody tossed out a number of $722.
The SSI.
Is that?
It's around that. It may have gone up a little
monthly?
bit. That's monthly. Yeah.
And we're talking about the difference between $20 and $25 annually.
Yes.
So I haven't done the calculations here, but we're talking about $5 compared to $8,664. I mean, the percentage is going to be 0.000. So small. It's a cup of coffee.
Well, then some of them managed to come up with,
And
used to come up with higher.
So anyway, I don't mean to be insensitive, but that $5 is such a small amount.
an
in the
individual.
relative sense of $8,664.
Yeah, I agree.
But with everything we're saying and doing here, it's still going to be based on the calculations of
Yes.
what's the
Correct.
fixed expense.
Yeah.
And can we actually even come down in?
Yeah, but do we agree to that, or do we want to do the 180 and then some other number for the low income?
I think we're going with some very reasonable proposals for the first two. And maybe Ben's proposal is maybe a little chancy, but maybe it's worth putting, something in there that, that may surprisingly turn out to be good numbers.
And if we don't have anything better, if nobody else is committed to another idea.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
See the
Okay.
projections on it.
Okay.
Number two, look at.
Now we're gonna look at grower.
Okay, so should we put 150 also to the second proposal there?
And what was that?
Yes.
Make everybody 35?
That's everyone
All
35
the
versus
reduced
25.
35 and all the normal 150. Okay.
Just to finish it, that number actually came to 0.011%.
It's not much, no.
Not much.
On a given day, it might be worth it to someone, but.
Exactly.
Okay, how about growers? Do we have room? Do we have the authority to write rules to split up growers between?
Well, it's fees.
Commercial, non-commercial, no. But you can split up fees on a, on a patient.
Per patient basis.
So you can aggregate fees based on patient.
A number of patients.
Yeah, so it can incrementally increase as the number of patients.
So growers with 2 or fewer patients, 1 or 2 patients, and growers with more than 2 patients.
I'll make the distinction that you're growing for yourself and somebody else.
Okay.
Okay. And does the new person designated to be responsible, that whole long new word I keep forgetting, wouldn't that be kind of a distinction between commercial and non-commercial? Could we have a grower's fee for someone who's the person designated as the person responsible for da-da-da versus the one who's not?
Nope. Not until the legislature changes and uncouples the grower from the patient.
So all we can do right now is just set a grower's fee.
Based on patient.
Or not.
Yeah.
Self plus 1 other or more than 4.
So it'd be you and 3 others?
That's a tough one because, yeah, some growers are making bank and some are just helping out a lot of patients.
Yeah, I know.
That's right. That's what I'm checking.
That's why I like the idea of commercial, but if we can't do it, we can't do it.
I mean, it's a nice idea, but until there's a legislative change.
We'll take it to
our hands are
the
tied.
legislature.
Yeah.
Okay, so fee, anybody have ideas on
So I'm gonna
fees?
stick with my
for grower
100 grower
fees?
fee if you're going for 3 more people, 3 or 4 people.
No
3 or
fee
4.
if it's for yourself and someone else.
Yeah.
And $50 if it's for
I say $100.
$100.
if you're
Okay,
doing
so
3 or
make
4
that, but
people.
which group does that go with?
Who's going to pay that fee?
The grower.
And so we're having this whole new designation of a form for a grower form. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
it's just a change in the fees.
But it's on the patient application,
Right.
the grower information. So how's the patient going to know whether or not this guy's growing for 3 other people or nobody else?
They have to find out.
That's up to the patient.
Just like they don't know if the patient's claiming to grow for 5 and they get rejected when they're
I
thick.
see more bumps in the road with that.
And how do you know how many patients the grower currently is registered for?
You don't.
Because if
Unless you
they're
ask.
just starting out, the first patient that registers for the
Yeah.
grower.
So this is Chris, I know Ben's on the line. We are trying to right now build that OIS system to address just this question, where our system modules will communicate between themselves. A card holder trying to sign up with a designated site with a grower or a number of growers then would be able to have that information real time. Not particular individual identifying information about either a grower or other patients, but whether they have allocations still open to be used. A grower's going to have the same information about other growers at the same site if there's multiple growers in one site. Again, not individual identifying information, but allocation potential available for them to use. So it's an excellent point. We're trying to address it with our technical system right now, but it's not completely resolved, but we've strategized how to get there.
So you want to throw out there for the one of the 150s or both, $100 for more than 2 and 0 for self and other?
Okay, yeah, so I have 2 categories, less than 3 patients and greater than 2. So that would be 0 for less than 3, and then
100.
how much are they?
Well, we could go on to the next one and do,
It's
I mean, they
50
could still
now.
alternate, do another one with 50 and 0.
Well, because before it was a grow site registration fee. Now they have a grower's fee, but not a grower
They
grow
have
site
both.
registration fee. Well,
They're
have
changing
changed
grower
the
to
growers- grow
Yeah, the
site
grower fee, I
registration.
think it means the same thing.
Oh, is that what they're?
I think so, yeah, I'll ask about that.
Yeah, if you're not your original grower or your own grower, it's $50.
Okay,
It's
so
not for
greater
the
than
site
2,
registration.
keeping it at 50 then. Another proposal for growers' fees for the 150, 35 patient fee side?
I'd say 0 and 100.
Yeah, I thought that first one.
Okay. 0 and 100.
Yeah, and so, well, no, that one could be 50,
No,
the
that
next
one
one could be 100, and, you know, they can just,
Give us some
yeah.
feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to see it go up just because there are growers who aren't doing it. Anything for this proposal? 0, 0.
The other idea we were looking at was $50 a patient. So it just goes up $50
Oh,
every
$50
time
per
you add a
patient.
patient.
Everybody just pays.
Oh, so write
Pay
that down.
$50 if you grow for
$50
yourself.
per patient.
Pay $100 if you grow for 2, $150 for 3, $200.
But you're paying that anyway, right? Because it gets paid with the patient's application.
Yeah, $50 registration, so that's what it is now.
That's current. Oh, you don't? That's right, you don't right now.
Not for
That would be a
yourself.
whole, I mean, we're going in a whole new world with that.
No, not for yourself, but if you were a grower for somebody else or an application.
All right, say $50 per patient beyond self.
Okay, for either thing.
Yeah.
That's correct. So gross side, there is no gross side fee, and I don't think it's proposed.
But there's a change of grower or grow site, so like if,
So just eliminate the next column, and then we'll go directly to change fee. Change of grower or grow site.
which is now $100
I recall it was like $20 or $30
previously.
that we had talked about in 2011.
Isn't that the same as a replacement card fee?
Yes.
Yep,
So they're seen as the same thing right now.
pretty much.
Once you get the $20 discount, then the replacement
Come on,
card is
Ben.
$20, right? And not if you get the $50 discount.
The replacement is if no information is changed. The change is if you change the information.
Card is lost or stolen.
What I tell people is anytime they have to print you a new card for any reason, it's gonna cost you $100. That's the way it is currently. Anytime they need to print anything, it's $100.
If you ask for a copy, it's $5 if you mail it out.
Yeah, but they don't accept those at dispensaries, I hear.
I was told by the state I could accept
Oh,
that.
really?
I was told by our inspector that I could
Okay,
accept that.
so change
Because it's a copy
fee.
from,
Change fee.
Okay.
yeah, I was told by.
I
our
think
two
$100
inspectors.
is too much, especially when we're gonna be throwing patients
Yeah.
off, away from growers, and then they're gonna have to desperately find someone and pay another $100 after they've already paid.
Fuck you for cutting me off, God damn it.
Oh!
You're still alive.
Is that on the,
Insurance in the minutes.
That's my biggest fear about calling in, it's not having it on mute. It's something.
I can't mute this thing, I don't think.
So, I don't know, is there any
Yeah.
feedback from
Change fees, folks.
any
We're
staff?
losing our focus.
Any staff input on the actual cost of changing?
Getting a new card.
Well, printing a new card and doing the background check or whatever the.
They do have costs, and I know, I had asked the question too as to why it was higher. I guess that the volume is really high.
Is it?
It was,
Oh.
when it was at $20.
Oh.
And so it got to be that it was pretty hard to manage, and it's a lot of.
Because there's no
Well,
incentive to not do it if it's over
No,
20
and so for staff, you know, the amount of time and effort that they had to go through continually, and it was frequent and it was high, that the cost was increased and that has decreased the number. So that you're way out the.
So let's put it
that's
somewhere in the
issue.
middle, let's say $40.
Well, we're really talking about two different fees here too, really. We're talking about a lost card, I need my card replaced fee. And then we're also talking about a change fee, if someone is going to change growers or move their address. And so there's really two distinctive activities that are taking place with this one fee.
Lost card, you just print out a new card. Change fee, you
$100
change
though, right?
something.
$100 for that?
Yeah.
So we're talking $100 for
Okay.
losing your
Yeah.
card. We're also talking $100 if, you know, the grow site moved. Now, if you're just a patient and you're gonna move, my understanding is that will not cost you anything because a new card is not required to be printed as long as the grow site hasn't changed. So that's a free change that people can make. But still, you know, if you're gonna lose your card, you're gonna be paying the same amount for that reprinted card as someone that's gonna have to go through this whole new change of grow site
But
type
again,
of a
for
situation.
consistency in management of a system, I can see instead of complicating the system, and again, another division of fees, and so unfortunately, instead of trying to make it fair for all, I think we really should come up just with one fee to either replace or change your card, and then there's no differentiation that staff has to make, or in the field, it's very easy to say, you lose your card or have to change your card, it's gonna cost you X amount.
But the difference
changing
is
your
that
card
when you,
costs
when you change the card, the staff has to go into the system and make
Have
a
to
change.
redo the whole
When you
background
lose the
check.
card, they're just printing out another card, which I would think would be easier than going in and changing the grow site or the
And
whatever.
remember,
I
there's
think
that
that's the
discount
volume.
too for the
That's where the
$20
volume is,
folks
that
too.
change.
You know, so
Not the
already
change,
that's the
but
case.
The lost card.
Yeah,
So,
my recollection from the 2001 rack was the change in the replacement fee. The reasoning behind it was in addition to what you said about disincentivizing the frequency of changes, was otherwise purely revenue generation based. And my memory of what Aaron said, you know, the actual cost is something like $5 or something to print out a new card and mail it. But to change information was something like 20 and 30 is kind of where my recollection,
But I do know they have to go through a whole process.
So we should have
Yeah.
a separate category for lost, stolen, and change,
yeah,
right?
maybe, you know, $20 for replacement
Mhm.
and 30 or 40 for change.
Yeah,
of
I like
the
that.
session.
Cover the paper
20
costs,
and
'cause it's
40
not nice.
Okay.
makes sense to me.
I
Okay.
always tell my patients is treat your card as $100 bill, and the chances are it'll be there next
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
when you need to replace it. So, I mean, you know, but that is the reality of it. So, if it's
Also-
$100 bill, you'll have it next year, so.
Also, 5 years ago, there were other conditions in place that why there was a lot of changes going on too, that don't exist now.
All right, so can we
Anyway.
start getting some ideas for numbers so we get this chart done?
Okay, so we have 40/20.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
I'd say 50/20.
50/20.
50 for a change. Just to make it even
Again,
out.
it's simplicity of keeping us in line with other things. and just-
50/20?
Sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
What's our third choice?
Third choice is with the 180/20 thing, so.
So going with that, can't see that again. So going with that logic,
Maybe 20/20.
yeah, 20/20 is what it would seem like.
we have to figure out how much an actual card costs to print.
Yeah,
It
because
should not be lower.
based on what he said that, what Aaron had said, it doesn't seem like 2020 would be quite right because there'd be a loss in staff
I
time.
thought it was like 35 just for it was 35 for the background, I want to say, and then it was like 13 or 15 just for that piece of paper because it's got the little tool on it.
Mhm.
And then staff time, they said an hour and a half or something. Like, I remember Aaron breaking it down that meeting.
Uh-huh.
That he was,
And that's
Wasn't there a change in criminal background checks?
I thought they quit doing it.
did they quit? Are they
Yeah,
doing
it's still $35.
Yeah, I thought it was still.
No, but my understanding was that it was waived for a while because there wasn't the staff time to do it. I don't know.
No,
That was
So remember you stopped doing the authorization for the criminal background check. But I can't remember if they stopped doing.
I thought it was a
No, we
low.
still run the actual criminal background check, and it costs us $35.
For every grower.
And that's
not
going to
just
be for
the
change
audit.
too, right? Because if you change your gross
I
out, you
put
have to run
50,
that. So it should
20
be at
there
least
too. That's good enough, isn't it?
to cover the cost.
Actual cost?
Yeah, it's not.
Then you figure just the employees done.
And then Carol can just mess around with the different numbers and see what works, how. Okay.
Figure I would say very easily 15 hours.
We'll just give this to you for Carol.
Do we need a motion on this, that we give it to?
Yeah, that's.
So does
because all
somebody
this
want to make
could
a
be
motion
contingent
to recommend that Carol Yan run these numbers so that we can come up with a proposal for the RAC? By what date?
Well, RAC is Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're
We're
meeting
discussing
on
fee
this.
structure
Okay.
this week, and so we can advise the RAC on
By the end of the week,
what
I
fees we
guess.
think should be.
Unless you
Monday.
probably work weekends now, too.
Try not to.
So somebody want to make that motion?
I make a motion to accept just what Cheryl has said.
Did you get that?
For
Okay.
suggestions.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Any other changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
I appreciate the discussion, guys. I feel like
This is
great.
good,
Appreciate
yeah.
having some numbers to.
Yeah, I so appreciate this, Carol.
We
Chris?
have just an item to clarify, maybe you can help this.
Yes.
So we're going to respond with, crunch that down, give you a response, we can shoot that out email. Are you anticipating that your response to the RAC would be via us or through your own devices?
I can do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm gonna be sending a bunch of stuff to
And I
them,
thought you guys
probably
had
this
that
weekend.
Monday? Monday?
Monday, yeah, I'm not gonna physically be there, because I'm not gonna drive 3 hours for a 3-hour meeting. 6 hours, actually.
Well, if you're going to be put to sit, yeah, or that should be.
That's one of those, like, family is back, and my friends. Okay, are there other concerns that the committee would like to discuss? Residency, Todd?
Yes, I have a motion. Dig it up.
No pun intended.
I make the following motion. The ACMM interprets, I meant to look this up. The section in House Bill 3400. Anyway,
Section 80A.
oh, you got it right there? Okay, section
80A.
80A. Okay, so I'll start that again. The ACMM interprets section 80A of House Bill 3400 of the 2015 Oregon legislative session as to not limit residency of Oregon medical marijuana patients and applicants to Oregon. We strongly advise the Oregon Health Authority to amend section 333-008-0002, subsection 1 and 3, to not limit residency of Oregon medical marijuana patients to Oregon.
Is there a second? Just for the purposes of discussion?
I will say.
Okay. Is there discussion? Read ADA. Proof of residency is required by the authority by rule. Oh, but you're
It
saying.
doesn't say Oregon
It doesn't say
residency.
proof of Oregon residency.
That's gonna be a huge change.
Can you reread that for me, please, Todd?
The motion?
Yes.
Okay. The ACMM interprets Section 80A of House Bill 3400 of the 2015 legislative session as to not limit residency of OMMP patients and applicants to Oregon. We strongly advise the Oregon Health Authority to amend section of the proposed, I think I forgot to say, of the proposed rules dated
Draft
11/24/2015 to not limit the residency of OMMP patients and applicants to Oregon.
Does anybody know what the legislative intent was there? Was there a discussion about this? Why did they even put that language in there about proof of residency?
I thought it was just leaving it umbrella.
Hey, Lee, thank you. Can we get somebody in the audience,
Yeah.
an attorney to tell us?
The legislature was responding to concerns about card stacking when they limited in the card stacking, the largest garden had 112 patients, all of whom lived in Southern California. So I appreciate Todd's efforts, but I think responding to your question, the legislative intent was to bar out-of-state residents. It's one of the things that the advisory committee needs to work on directly through the legislature, because the health authority has never been responsive to any suggestion for any legislative or administrative change that the ACMM has ever offered, and it's absolutely at its nadir of where they are relative to the Medical Marijuana Act. As far as the agency is concerned, they just as soon it all went away. So they don't care about an interpretation that allows more patients. They want the whole program to get absorbed and go to the OLCC. So the legislature, on the other hand, I think can be approached on this issue, and I would encourage the advisory committee either individually or collectively to go and do that.
Thank you. More discussion? So all in favor?
Aye.
I'll be in favor of that.
That's 4. All opposed? Aye. Motion passes.
Jerry, you opposed?
Yes.
I also have another motion to make.
Okay.
Which we haven't discussed yet, but we can have a discussion about. That ACMM strongly proposes divorcing patients from growers.
Second, the decoupling, as it's been called. We'll elaborate if we can get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded. Discussion?
I guess at the informational hearing for the interim joint committee on implementing Measure 91, someone from the Oregon Health, representative from the Oregon Health Authority presented their interest in seeing legislative changes to decouple patients and growers, meaning patients would only be able to either grow for themselves or, well, she didn't actually elaborate on the details, but it sounds to me like the intent was to allow patients to grow for themselves, but not allow anybody else to grow for the patient, and so they would only have access to dispensaries.
Unlike it's been since its inception, the growers would not be linked. They wouldn't be growing for a patient. They would be growing, I guess, for the market. And I just think it would be incredibly damaging to the patients. A lot of patients would lose access to cannabis unless there's some way this could be carried out that I'm not aware of. I'm opposed to it.
What I inferred was possibly they're thinking licensed medical growers, you know, providing dispensaries and such.
But then how would patients get their medicine?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, aside from all of the, you know, the negative implications for patients, we're going through an enormous amounts of legislative and administrative changes, and to just throw something big like this with no real reason behind it or need, that would make sweeping changes to the whole landscape is just unwise, even if it's a fairly good idea. It's still a big change.
And it was a recommendation to the legislature that when they are reconvening in February, that this be up for consideration. And I assume there will be discussion. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. More discussion, questions? All right, all in favor of opposing this concept of decoupling?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstaining? Jerry's abstaining. The motion passes. Anything else?
Well, we just wanted to maybe, I think we maybe, what's the process currently that you understand of how our advice and recommendations get passed along to the director and the public health director? Everyone above
It's
you?
done through me.
Okay, so they get memos. What's the actual process?
I could discuss it with them informally, or I can make a more informal document, like a memo. I think the minutes are probably a good indicator of what occurs at a meeting and what motions passed. And I can go over those motions with the director when I meet with her. So I think it's just me keeping an open line of communication between the committee and the agency.
Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have things on record.
Sure.
And it's another thing to also bring it to the attention of someone. And I ask this question every time we get a new leadership in here. And usually they don't know, or we found out before that they don't actually go to the director or the public health director. And so I just want to make sure that's how it's happening with it.
Along those lines, and along the lines of what I think you were saying, this gentleman, it seems that this is an advisory committee. We can make recommendations, and from what I've experienced in the past, and from what I think you were saying, that we are an advisory committee, and very few things that we've really discussed and passed along have really met with any sincerity or approvals. Would you have any input into that?
I think I can give you my good faith effort that I will take the recommendations provided by this committee to the director. I mean, that's what I can give you right now.
I'm optimistic that with the expansion to the program and with Andres being added to it, that things will change and that we won't necessarily continue down that road. I mean, it feels like there's a lot more money and the state supporting the program a little bit more. They're doubling the size of it for one thing. But then, of course, when I see the legislature just stole another $5 million, it doesn't make me too happy.
They keep adding more conditions, taking away more money.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have taken this position if I hadn't been reassured about the viability of the program. I moved here before.
Nice.
Oh, you're
I mean,
smart.
personal feeling, personal motivations aside, it's not my place to stonewall the committee before the agency. My role is to communicate the advice given by the committee to the agency. So I'll do that.
All right, anything else?
I
Tris?
had another subject. I just wanted to mention that I a couple months ago, or maybe even 3 months ago, we were trying to find out the legitimacy and the legality of remote internet clinics. And Skyping basically doctor clinics, because it was happening in our community. We were a little like, oh, is that okay? I just want to say the word finally got back. It took a little while for everything to get filtered through, but in fact, those are not legal to do. I mean, they're not going to be accepted by the Oregon Health Authority. I just want to thank you for clarifying that for us. It took a while, and I appreciate knowing that. It's certainly going to affect a lot more patients. I know there were some rules changed in the legislature regarding remote clinics for other, mainstream medicinal things, which makes a lot of sense for remote areas like in southeast Oregon and part of the folks we reach. So anyway, we're not asking for a change in that, but I just appreciate the clarification. And I was just curious because I hear there were quite a few rejections of folks that had in fact turned in their application with remote clinics. Is that actually affected the speed of things moving forward as far as the card? Is that another bump in the road that we didn't expect?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so it wasn't a big number of patients necessarily.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks. I was curious.
One of the requirements is a thorough physical
Yeah.
exam, and that
It's
seems
hard
pretty
to
hard to do
focus.
over a Skype.
Yeah. Hard to
Unless
to
there's
me.
a physician's assistant present.
And we're not up in
physically.
the remotes of Alaska either, I think there's certainly a role for Skype in healthcare, but.
Is that a requirement, is a
Thorough physical exam. Oh yeah, this has been one of my bugaboos all along, because I know that thorough physical exams are not always being done.
Well, that shocks me because I would say that very few thorough physical exams are being.
I can tell you that they are at Compassion Center for every single patient that goes through there.
That's refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, those doctors take 20 to 45 minutes with every single patient, and it is a thorough physical exam, hands-on.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
My experience, I would call it a rare exception.
I think it probably is.
The two clinics I work with, they're very big on physical.
Yeah. All right, anything else? And the meeting is adjourned.
Comment?
Public, oh, yeah. Okay, public comment. Do we have a list? Thank you. Thanks. I'm so eager. Justina Vera?
Hi.
Hi.
I work with American Benefits Inc. We are looking at insuring cannabis-related risks. We've been doing so on the medical marijuana side. And so I'm just trying to understand what the landscape is, what the issues are. And I appreciate y'all letting me sit in and learn. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Anthony Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Chair and members of the committee for allowing me the opportunity. I want to touch on fees for just a minute. In the last legislative session, Compassionate Oregon asked that all veteran fees be reduced to $25. Veterans are required to be in a state-sanctioned program if they're using cannabis in their health care plan. So something that's required by the feds should be made easy at the state level for those veterans that are participating in both the medical program and the DBA healthcare program. I would ask the ACMM to advocate for moving the effective date March 1st for all the plant limits, patient limits, to January 1st, 2017. I think this will allow a much longer and a much easier transition period for both the OHA and the patient-grower relationship. And I know that the OHA in their temporary rules for packaging, labeling, concentration, and testing moved that effective date from January 1st of 2016 to April 4th, so the precedent is there. And if we can get that movement started, I think that the legislature would accept that notion and kind of preempt the session by saying, yes, we we understand the need for this, and we'll do that in February, and that would allow the OHA Rules Committee right now to have some breathing room, as will the patients and the growers, because right now, 3,100 patients are going to lose their growers March 1st, and there's another 20,000 patients that could be adversely impacted by these new patient limits. So I think we need to actively pursue moving back the effective date. The other thing that I think would help everybody tremendously, especially OHA, is creating a definition for a person responsible for a grow site, such as the person responsible for a dispensary right now. Because right now, unless the OMMP looks at all the patients that have designated a specific address and determines which patient's address lines up with their own address, thereby determining who is actually in control of that address, would be beneficial to everybody, because right now there's no way of knowing at some of these cooperative gardens where there's 5, 10, 15, 20 growers at that address. Establishing a person responsible for a grow site would help with that in two aspects. One, in who to talk to when an inspection is about to happen, and two, who's actually responsible for the reporting requirements under the new rules, legislation and rules. Secondly, it is very clear to me and several attorneys that I've talked with that the 2 patient address or 12 plant address is exempted from inspections and reporting. We got to get clear on this, and that will also help the Rules Advisory Committee to help them draft rules a little bit easier. And because the real situation here is there's a possible scenario where right now I understand that the OMMP is issuing applications based on a first-come, first-served basis in light of the new limits that come into effect March 1st. And so there's a possible scenario where a renewing patient that actually owns and is in control of the address is denied an application because he's the 17th patient that has designated that address and is thereby over the limit. So he's denied to be able to grow his own cannabis at his own address. And I think establishing this person responsible for a grow site will help that. And in tandem with that, we discontinue this limit of 4 patients per card and let that person that's responsible for the grow site grow for as many patients as they feel they can adequately take care of. For instance, if you have a 48 plant garden and you only have the 8 patients listed there, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to take care of 12 or 20 patients. And I think that the legislation is a little unclear on this, or a little vague on this, but the fact is that they did not limit, they only limited plants per address, not patients per address. So we're seeking clarification of that through Legislative Council. But I think it's an important tool in being able to get through this transition period as we begin to decrease the number of patients that are at any address. There's a whole bunch of new information that's going to be required to put on a card. And I mentioned this at the RAC meeting on Monday. Now you have to have the caregiver's address, the grower's address, and their birth date, and all that information has to also be included on a card. Frankly, I'd really like my card to be able to still fit in my wallet, so I would encourage the ACMM to take a look at this. And then finally, we do have a history of the OHA just not treating the patients within their program very well, nor advocating for them. And when the legislature came up with this idea of limiting the number of patients that were allowed at an address, the OHA was missing in action on defending the patients and their future of perhaps losing their grower. So it's really important, I think, that the ACMM continues to ask the OHA to not advocate necessarily for marijuana, but certainly advocate for the patients in this program as they do for any of their other patients in programs that they're tasked with administering. So that's all I had to say according to my notes here.
Thank you,
Thank
Anthony.
you.
Sarah Duff?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you all for your dedication and patience. Let's see. I definitely want to second everything that Anthony just said. I definitely think that all veterans should be able to get a discount, and it's basically not a low-income discount, but just a thank you discount for serving their country. And just because you're disabled or have PTSD doesn't mean that you served your country any more than the other ones that don't. Also, I think that we should add Social Security and Social Security Disability and whatever the SSID is to the low-income designation, so that even though there are some people that get Social Security that are rich, that number of people is very small. So I really don't think that it would affect that many people to designate that and to take less money from them. I also think that any excess money should be used for a low-income patient program. I actually think that all patients should be able to get some money if they are a patient and there's excess money somewhere. The reason why is we've had that culture in Oregon since the beginning of the medical marijuana program. We've been subsidizing all patients with any way that we can, and usually it's the low-income patients that get the most help, hopefully anyway. So I think that we can continue doing that. It's sad that the $5 million is gone. That would have made a lot more sense going back to patients. And it would actually make more sense for recreational money to go to patients and then just more money going to low-income patients. So I'm just going to keep advocating for this, and I've been talking about it with legislators, and I know it's not going to happen this session, but we have another session coming up after that, so I'm hoping that that can be taken up then. And I'm very worried about the OLCC rules not allowing co-location of gardens for OLCC and medical marijuana. It's really going to affect every patient that I have, I think. I have 230 patients that I've matched to a grower through my business, Duff Johnson Consulting, and I think at this point 50% are going to lose their patients based on the plant number restrictions, but I think almost all of them will lose it because people are going to want to do the OLCC gardens because that's the only way to really make money. But again, we should be subsidizing the patients by allowing co-location so that the OLCC people can make money in other ways and be able to help patients. So that's all I've got, but thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. Barbara Lumen?
Thank you for all the work that you do and have done. There's always loopholes. I want to introduce myself. I worked for the Washington County Judicial Department, state of Oregon, for 24 years. And I was a certified LEDS operator. So I could go into the system and track anybody down. Well, if you know what LEDS is, then you know what I was doing. And I just wanted to read this. At the time all this was happening, I was probably going through withdrawals and very stressed out. I know I called the department regularly. Some of the gals in Miss Lockwood's office, you know, I just recognized their name or their voices. They were all very nice and very helpful. Their hands were tied. They could do nothing for me, so I suffered. And this is, I probably should have updated this, but I didn't have time. Hello, I am a medical marijuana patient and have had my OMMP card for 3 years. I have chosen to use medical marijuana because I believe it is a better choice for my body. And I do not smoke because I have, my lungs are very complicated anyway, and I shake, so I'm sorry. It's less when I'm doing my meds, but anyway, I'll get back to it. I believe it is a better choice for my body, and I believe, okay, pharmaceutical medicines with their far-reaching effects, I mean, they kill you. Oxycontin kills more people. I don't know anyone that died of an overdose of pot, but that's beside the point. Annually, it is necessary for me to pay OMMP $250 to process a card to authorize my visits to a medical marijuana dispensary, and another $150 to go see my doctor for my thorough examination every year, although what I have isn't going to go away. And so that's a waste of money for people that aren't rich. And let's see. The card countercyclical. I don't like the idea of you guys turning my medical situation over to the Oregon Department of Liquor. I mean, the liquor, alcohol has nothing to do with my medication. It's like my blood pressure medication and my diabetes medication. OLCC, or the Liquor Commission, has nothing to do with that. They should have nothing to do with my medical. If you see what I'm talking about, I may not have explained it. And that's all I have to say. You guys have done a really great job, but, oh, I forgot. I think we need an emergency outlet in all these rules and regulations, because I did suffer withdrawals and my body did suffer a lot from the muscles retracting and freezing up, you know? And so in my case, I started in August and I didn't get my card until November 12th. However, someplace along the line, I found out I bought a 30-day amount of marijuana to supply for me so I could make it through. I ran out of medicine, and when I called, I found out that I inadvertently hadn't signed the bottom part of the paper that they had on file from the year before, and so we had to go through an extra process because of my neglect or mistake. But I should be able to have better access to my medicine. I don't want to be a shriveled up old lady, and I'm 70, and I try real hard to take care of myself. And I appreciate your staff and everything that they did. They were quite understanding, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Barbara. Priscilla Lewis?
Oh, I'm not going to testify,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Brenda Thomas.
Hi, I'm Brenda Thomas. I'm from Southern Oregon Patient Awareness Center in Grants Pass. I haven't been able to attend the meetings a lot recently because I've had 4 major surgeries in the last 2 years. I remember Todd, and I think I remember you, but everybody else kind of looks new to me. I'm here to represent hundreds of patients in Southern Oregon that don't have the time or the financial means to come up and speak to you guys. The biggest concerns we've already discussed are the fees, which are wonderful. I thank you so much for your time on that, because that is a huge amount of the complaints I get on a daily basis are the fees to the state. Another complaint I get is, like they were talking about how long it takes for the cards to be issued, and then I think what she was trying to say is she wants to be able to use her temporary paperwork to be able to go to a dispensary as well and not have to wait until they get the official little card. Another thing I would like to talk about is the out-of-state IDs. As a clinic owner and person that deals with a lot of patients, I am getting a lot of complaints that if I move here and I have cancer, you're going to tell me I have to wait 2 years to get my medicine. Starting in January is what we were understood is they're going to start requiring Oregon IDs for patients also. So I'm getting some complaints on that, but they've also said that they would like to be able to still grow their own, not for anybody else, or grow for recreational or retail information or only, but they still feel that even if they have an out-of-state ID, they should be able to grow their own until they can get their Oregon state ID. So just some suggestions and some information I'd like to pass on to you all. Also, I don't want to word this wrong, but I support the Anthony and Sarah very, very much on the delay on the medicine amounts until January. There's so much confusion with the patient. Nobody knows anymore. We even have the police departments down there saying we don't know what's going on. The patients don't know what's going on. The police don't know what's going on. The commission's the city. And then in Josephine County, they have banned all growing in the city at all, period. No patients, no medical, no recreational, whatever, starting in January 1st. So anything you guys can do to stick up for us in the legislature, we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Brenda. And I just wanted to clarify that the residency requirement for patients only says that you have to be a resident. It's not 2 years.
Okay.
The 2 years is for the growers.
Okay, so they can still use out-of-state ID?
No, they need to be.
Or sign that verification form?
Like a utility bill, right?
Well, we do have those forms that we downloaded from the website. They can just sign those.
Those are for the growers.
They're just for growers. They're not for
They have
patients.
that proof of residency.
Okay.
But it's not in rule yet.
Right.
Okay. Oh, and one more thing I did want to bring up also, because somebody said something about the doctor exams. We see you, when you come to our office, you see a nurse first, you go through her complete physical exam, and then you see our doctor for at least 20 to 30 minutes for an exam before you get your approval. So just to get that out there.
Leland Berger?
My name is Leland Berger. I'm a lawyer. I've been practicing for 32 years, and for the last 20 years, I've been, almost 20 years, 19 years maybe, been looking after medical marijuana patients and their providers. Because I don't also recognize some of you, and some of you don't know who I am, I just want to elaborate on that just a little bit. I helped draft the Medical Marijuana Act and Measures 33 and 74 and House Bill 3460 and Measure 91. In 98 or 99, when the first cards issued, we didn't have an advisory committee on medical marijuana, and things went along fine for a while until the OHA, then the DHS, took actions which precipitated a protest that involved 300 folks showing up. From that sprung a group that met informally with the, and I always forget because they shift around the titles, but the bureaucrat who was looking after the person who was the director of the program. No, but I couldn't remember what his position was. Public health officer, maybe. Yeah, and we met informally with him, and then in 2005, the advisory committee was formed as a part of Senate Bill 1085, and it was formalized, and I was the first lawyer on the committee at the time, and I know how tedious and boring, and how, as I articulated previously, how deaf the agency's ears are. And I don't mean any disrespect to you, sir. I know you're on your job really recently, and I don't really think it has to do, although we've had some really bad directors. The fact is that the first director was a gift from the gods, and she was fired because she advocated for the program. So we've had that kind of a relationship with the agency since then. At a hearing before the Joint Committee on 91, the director of OHA, initially, the first time she appeared there, said she didn't even know about the advisory committee. The last time they appeared there, she and Shannon O'Fallon, the current Assistant Attorney General assigned to the program, they advocated not only for this decoupling, but they also advocated that we shouldn't be, the agency shouldn't be required to keep confidential grow sites because it interfered with their ability to assist law enforcement. That was the point. Mm-hmm. That was the point of the legislation. We had lots of choices about where to put the medical marijuana program. In Massachusetts, for example, their legalization bill is likely going to put it in the agricultural department, and we certainly considered that, but we gave it to the Department of Human Services because they respected confidentiality and because they're used to dealing with confidential information. And to hear that kind of testimony from Shannon and the director at the legislature was really disconcerting to me. And so mostly, I mean, I came here today, and it's the second time I've been in this building this week, because on Monday, you know, at the Rules Advisory Committee, I got to go for the morning, because I had work I had to do in the afternoon. But, you know, in the morning, they announced that if you are a worker in a dispensary, that you can't consume through smoking or vaping, even in an enclosed secret room that nobody has access to because it's in the workplace, because that's the construction that the agency gives, because they don't care about patients. The only agency that cares about patients is this committee, the Advisory Committee on Medical Marijuana, and I can't strongly enough urge you to bypass the agency and go directly to the legislature with the concerns that Anthony raised, with the concerns that Todd raised through his motions today, and and help us, you know, save and preserve this program. The medical marijuana program is under attack. If it were up to the OHA, it would all go into the OLCC. And as you heard from you know, one speaker today, that's just not appropriate for patients. The fact is that not everybody is scamming the system the way you'd think if you were just reading the paper about it, but that overwhelmingly people who are suffering from debilitating medical conditions, who are willing to pay the money that gets siphoned off by the legislature each session, apparently some 3.5 or 5 million, really? They took this time, you know? I mean, why are the fees, why is it not just self-generating? Why are the fees need to exceed it to that extent? I mean, I remember when I was on the advisory committee, one of the things is they show up every 3 months and say, well, we got to keep a 3-month excess supply, right? But that we adjust the fees so it doesn't get beyond that. Where is that? Is a 3-month supply $3.5 million? Something's gone really wrong. And when we're taking that off of the backs of people who are suffering from debilitating medical conditions. Early on in the Medical Marijuana Act, Dr. Phil Levesque, who passed recently, was investigated by the medical board because at a clinic in Medford, he had reviewed documents of medical records about an MS patient who had chronic progressive multiple sclerosis, wasn't ever going to get better, which, by the way, how come we don't have a permanent card yet? You know, as long as we're talking about that for folks like that, but didn't actually see him. And what those of us who helped with his defense with the Board of Medical Examiners learned is that there isn't anything in the Medical Marijuana Act that requires the laying on of hands. There is now, as the chair pointed out, in the rules, but there wasn't originally. But there is in the Medical Ethics Code. And so early on, it's been a requirement that there be actual physical exams. And I know that at a lot of clinics, not yours, not Brenda's, you know, but at a lot of clinics, there's a lot of pressure on physicians to move people through quickly, and that things aren't as thorough as perhaps they should be. So, and I guess the other thing, besides you who I haven't met, I mean, I've worked with Aaron Kossel a lot, and it's been a tremendously positive relationship. So it isn't that there aren't individuals, but I mean, the people who are setting the policy are actively, the program is actively under attack. They're interpreting the Indoor Clean Air Act today. The reason I came here today was there was a meeting about that upstairs to say that employees can't waive the right to be in a smoke-free workplace so that they can utilize cannabis. They're saying that a private place means what the OLCC thinks it means instead of what the law thinks it means. And it's going to potentially be the end of cannabis clubs where patients and adults who can't use in their own homes because they're Section 8 housing or for whatever reason.
There's a lot of
hospice or gosh, early on we did that. Kelly Page and the first director and I and gosh, somebody else went to our house and we went with a vaporizer to show them that there isn't really any excess when that happens, because they were making the guys at our house walk through the cemetery. These guys are in hospice and they make them walk through the cemetery to smoke their medicine. Anyway, we're under attack, and I know that it's a tremendous expenditure of time to participate in this committee, but I encourage you individually or collectively to become more involved in the legislative process to help save this program and make sure that it continues and through legalization. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, with that, the meeting is adjourned.
So I don't get to give my comment?
One more comment.
Go quiet, tight.
We're listening.
Okay, I've been with the program since it started. I know Lee Berger as a friend. I'm with Mercy TV, the Mercy Center, Alice Allen, Oregon. I seen the fees go one way or the other. I see that we have all this discount or money in our bank account. And then the federal government or the state doles it out to other departments and that. Now they're talking about limiting the amount of patients, the minimum amount of cannabis that you can be growing at the grow site. The fees should be all that. We should have a one fee for the eternal bill, where they don't have to go through the process of seeing a doctor, and if you have to go to see a specialist, there's another couple $100 that the patients are. And cannabis is medicine, and it should be regulated the way it is. Thank you, and you all doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.